7th, 2017 meeting of the Ways and Means meeting will now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Ansello? Mr. Baroth? Dr. Carbone? Mr. Delahanty? Here. Chairwoman Draw?
Here.
Mr. Felder? Mr. Hebert? Here. Ms. Cayley? Here. Mr. Marionetti? Here. Mr. Morelli? Here. Mr. Rocco?
Will Legislator Felder, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And if you just remain standing so that we can remember those men and women that have served our country and are continuing to serve our country, especially on this most important December 6th, Pearl Harbor Day, D-Day. Thank you. There are two public hearings scheduled for tonight's meeting. Madam Clerk.
An affidavit of publication and posting of the notice of the hearings on the assessment rolls of the Pure Waters districts for 2018 and the notice of the hearing on the proposed 2018 Monroe County budget in the Daily Record and the Rochester Business Journal have been received and are on file in the clerk's office.
I now declare open the public hearings on the assessment rolls for the Gates, Chili, Ogden Sewer District, the Irondequoit Bay South Central Pure Waters District, the Northwest Quadrant Pure Waters District, and the Rochester Pure Waters District for 2018. Are there any speakers signed up for these meetings?
There are not.
I declare these public hearings closed. I now declare open the public hearing on the proposed 2018 Monroe County budget. Are there any speakers requested or signed up for this meeting?
Yes, I have one. Would Bridget Hurley please come forward? You'll be given 2 minutes in which to address the committee. When your name is called, please come forward, address the members of the Ways and Means Committee. Thank you. And conclude your remarks when the timer sounds.
Good evening. I'm actually not going to take very much time at all. Wanted to let you know that I'm giving to the clerk our summary of the Children's Agenda's review of the 2018 Monroe County budget. We're very positive about this budget, lots of good things for kids, and I'll let you go ahead and take a look at our report. Feel free to get in touch if you have any questions. Just two things I wanted to mention. One is something that I haven't heard discussed much at the hearings, if at all, and that is the new section of the county budget, which is a summary of all the programs that impact children and families in the county. And it's really terrific, and I hope it's used as a vehicle for learning more about how the county does touch the lives of children and families. And also, it can be used as an accountability tool because there's a good amount of detail. So I just want to compliment the Budget Office on that and encourage you to use that section of the budget over the years to come. And secondly, not directly related to the budget, but there are some really exciting things happening at the state level that are going to impact Monroe County, and I just want to invite you to take advantage of the opportunities that are going to be coming our way. There's a Medicaid, New York State Medicaid First 1,000 Days initiative, which is completely focused on children, very young children. There's a New York State Regents Blue Ribbon Commission. These will both have impact here locally, and we'll talk some more about it, but just wanted to bring those to your attention. In addition to Rock the Future and the Anti-Poverty Initiative, there'll be some chances for us to work together in 2018 to do some good things for kids. Maybe you've heard this proverb, if you want to go if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And we'd like to work together with you in 2018. Thank you.
Thank you, Bridget. Are there any other speakers who'd like to address this committee regarding the budget tonight? Okay, seeing none, I declare this public hearing closed. Are there any speakers that are signed up for the public forum tonight?
Yes, there's one. Would Robert Kehoe please come forward? Again, you'll have 2 minutes to address the committee and conclude your remarks when the buzzer sounds, please.
Madam Chairman, Mr. Vice Chair, honorable members of the Ways and Means Committee. I spoke during the most recent legislature meeting on November 14th as a representative of the Sheriff's Office Association of Retirees concerning the county's decision to terminate contractually guaranteed health insurance coverage for certain retirees as of January 1st, 2018, including retirees of the Sheriff's Office. Since that time, I have been disheartened but not surprised to learn that the county administration, and specifically the Department of Human Resources, has supplied you, as well as your constituents, with what can best be described as misleading information, and we can see that displayed on the screen next to me. The county's consistent mantra has been, the new plan is better. The logical question that should then follow is, it's better than what? Well, that is accurate. It is better than the plan we now have, simply because we will be given $50 per month to use for premiums, co-pays, deductibles, and other allowable medical expenses. This $50 a month amount, however, of course, is only promised to us for 1 year. You can use your own imaginations to conclude just how far $50 per month will go toward medical expenses. The new plan is certainly not better in any way than the plan under which we retired and that we were guaranteed for life under the terms of our collective bargaining agreements. Of course, come on January 1st, there really will be no plan at all because the county has chosen to terminate all health insurance coverage for approximately 1,800 people, all of them over the age of 65 or on disability retirement, including those injured on the job. In order to help clarify the issue, certain documents are going to be distributed to you. Included are copies of the relevant sections of our contract, a comparison chart showing how our benefits have been substantially diminished from those we received in 2012 and under which we retired. And there's also included a resolution that was passed by the Monroe County Board of Supervisors back in 1966 that addressed the issue of retiree health care. As you examine the allocations contained in this budget, I and my fellow retirees implore you to ensure that the necessary funding is appropriated in order to restore our health care benefits to the same level we were promised. As I stated in my previous remarks, this is not a Republican issue nor a Democrat issue. In that vein, both Sheriff O'Flynn and Sheriff-elect Baxter have expressed their support for our position. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. This concludes the public forum. I would like to introduce Mr. Brayton Connor, the Director of Human Resources of Monroe County. At this time, he's here to provide us an update to the Ways and Means Committee on the Monroe County Retiree HRA plan. Mr. Brayton. Thank you.
Chairwoman Draw, honorable legislators, guests of the chamber, thank you for allowing me to make a presentation tonight. Trust but verify. Those words were first used by President Ronald Reagan, and they still ring true when it comes to separating fact from fiction. Unfortunately, Much of the discussion about changes to Monroe County's coverage for Medicare-eligible retirees has been misrepresentative, to say the least. These improvements will allow our Medicare-eligible retirees to keep the same free lifetime coverage they have now, provide $600 per retiree annually in a health reimbursement account, and save taxpayers over $1 million each year. Sounds too good to be true, so let's verify by looking at the facts. Before this year, Monroe County retirees could only enroll in a single one-size-fits-all Medicare Advantage plan. Moving forward, retirees will have a choice of several plans and providers, plus they will receive $600 annually from the county in a brand new health reimbursement account. The account can be used for copays and deductibles or to upgrade their plan. The funds roll over from year to year and can be applied to any IRS-eligible health expense, including dental, vision, and hearing benefits. With the added portability offered by these changes, our retirees now have the choice of any Medicare plan from any insurance company anywhere in the United States of America. The most popular plan offers a $0 premium, $0 copays on preferred generic drugs, preventive care, and even a Silver and Fit wellness benefit. It is the same Medicare Advantage plan that 80% of the local Excellus customers enroll in. Plus, county retirees get the extra $600 annually to help cover out-of-pocket expenses that they previously had to bear solely on their own. For years, our retirees have been asking for portability and choice with their Medicare plans and with help with copays. These improvements deliver all three of those. It can't be ignored that Monroe County has a $1 billion retiree health insurance liability. This means that even if the county went out of business today and ceased providing all services, it would still have to collect $1 billion of tax dollars to pay for retired government employee health insurance, most of which is provided free for life. Despite this massive financial burden, the county continues to find new and cost-effective ways to honor that responsibility. By eliminating the middleman and cutting administrative and management fees with these improvements, Monroe County will save $1 million annually while effectively maintaining the exact same coverage for retirees and putting $1 million into the pockets of our retirees to help with their out-of-pocket expenses. This is a clear win-win for retirees and taxpayers. I know this is an important topic. Like all of us, Monroe County retirees are rightfully protective of their health care coverage. Some were skeptical of these changes. Some remain skeptical. But most, once they learned the facts and the benefits, became very pleased with them. Once they saw how these improvements will allow them to keep the same free coverage they have now, offer additional coverage options, provide $600 for out-of-pocket expenses that they didn't have before, nearly all of them have given us positive feedback. The education component of this process was vital. Recognizing that retirees who are fully informed would be more likely to feel comfortable with the process, Monroe County launched an unprecedented effort to educate our retirees on what these improvements meant for them. We established a dedicated hotline. We established a dedicated website to the purpose. We hosted 15 information sessions where we partnered with Lifespan, all the local insurance carriers, independent Medicare brokers, and our local HRA representative. We answered over 300 calls on the hotline from retirees, many of which I answered myself. We did everything we could to spread the word that these improvements will allow our retirees to keep the same free coverage they have now, provide $600 per retire annually in a health reimbursement account, save our taxpayers $1 million a year. Unfortunately, there have been some misinformation spread about this process along the way. The one I hear most often is that retirees are losing county health care coverage as a result of these changes, and that is false. Retirees will be continued to be fully covered under their choice of Medicare Advantage plans, plus the county will provide financial assistance for copays and deductibles. These are indisputable, clear-cut facts which cannot be denied. Again, I'm proud to have had the opportunity to be here tonight to share these facts with you. I think it is very important that you receive this information. But I'm not asking you to take my word for it. Everyone, including members of this body and the guests with us tonight, and anyone who is interested, can visit our dedicated website at monroeretirees.com. I'll repeat that again, monroeretirees.com, and they can learn for themselves about these improvements. There, we've posted all of the information materials that we've shared with our retirees throughout the process, including the mailings, fact sheets, FAQs, frequently asked questions. I'm confident that when anyone looks at this information in totality, it will be clear that these improvements will allow our retirees to keep the same free coverage they have now, provide $600 per retiree annually in a new health reimbursement account, and that money will roll over from year to year and save taxpayers $1 million. Thank you, Madam Chairman, for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Connor, for the update. And before I open the floor to any questions from our committee members only, I would like to ask our county attorney for a brief announcement regarding questions on this topic. Mr. Davis, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I would just like to advise that the discussion on the topic of Medicare-eligible retiree health benefits has the potential to run into areas that are subject to legal restrictions. On the one hand, this is an issue that involves pending legal proceedings, both grievances and lawsuits. If questions that relate to those proceedings arise, I will advise this body to move into executive session, wherein any discussion, as you know, would be subject to a mandate of confidentiality. The second point is that the subject of Medicare-eligible retiree health benefits is a subject of collective bargaining. If questions arise relating to collective bargaining, I will advise that such information is protected by the Taylor Law and cannot be discussed, not even in executive session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Davis. Now, are there any questions that come before you? Mr. Hebert. Legislator Hebert, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
I'm calling you.
Through you to the administration, can you describe what made the county consider this? What made this come to fruition? I mean, what was the driving force behind it?
Chair, we had received feedback from retirees over the years that they did not like the plan that we were offering, and they wanted choice. And so the administration set about finding a way to provide choice to the retirees.
Thank you. Through the chair, it sounds like there's $2 million of total savings, half of which is essentially being kept by the county, half of which is going to the retirees. Where did that $2 million come from?
Through you to through the chair. So under a group plan, the county pays a premium, and we were previously paying a premium for an identical plan that could be obtained free of charge by retirees. So the county was paying for something that retirees could get for free for themselves. And that presented an opportunity to not waste money and to therefore put $1 million into the pockets of our retirees to help with copays and also save money for taxpayers.
Thank you.
Thank you. Also, through the chair, under the current 2017 plan, if I was a Monroe County retiree and moved to Florida, did my health insurance coverage move with me?
Through the chair, no. Medicare Advantage plans are geographically based by the federal government. If a retiree in 2017 or before, a Medicare-eligible retiree, moved outside the immediate geographic area of Monroe County, their coverage would cease fully, and they would receive no coverage. And we have retirees who have been in that situation before. One of the advantages of the retiree HRA plan is that the retiree, if they move, they can move anywhere they would like, and they can get a Medicare Advantage plan or another type of Medicare coverage in that location and use the funds to either purchase the plan, or if the plan is free, to use the funds for copays. So it provides much more flexibility and portability for them.
Thank you again. Once again, through the chair, this $600 health retirement account that's being given to retirees, does that apply to spouses as well?
Through the chair, that is correct. The $600 figure is per covered life. Medicare Advantage plans only come in single coverage as opposed to an employer-based coverage when you're an employee and you might be on a family plan. So the county, for the retiree and the spouse, provides each of them with an individual Medicare Advantage plan in 2017. So in 2018, we will provide each of them with their own $600 fund.
Thank you. If through the chair again, if there are unspent funds at the end of the year from this HRA $600, what happens to them?
Through the chair, any unspent funds in the HRA roll over from year to year. There is no limit to that rollover in the plan, and therefore retirees can have the flexibility of saving the money in case there is a large payment, for a large hospitalization or some other expense. They can also use the money for any IRS allowable health expense, including dental, such as dentures or routine dental, or vision coverage, or hearing aids. That does remind me of one point. You did not ask me about this, but some retirees have questioned whether the changes affect their lifetime dental coverage from the county, and they do not. The dental coverage is completely separate from health insurance, and the dental coverage continues in an unchanged fashion.
Thank you. Once again, through the chair, if I understood you correctly in your presentation, you stated that the $600 HRA could be used to buy up to a better Medicare plan. Roughly how many of those plans could be purchased for $600 or less? How many different options would there be for a retiree?
Through the chair, the identical plan that we offer currently can be obtained for a $0 premium through Excellus. There are 2 other insurance companies that also offer $0 plans. So far that's 3 that are $0 plans. There's an additional 5 plans that do have a premium to them that totals less than $600. So our retirees now have a choice of 8 plans that will have equal or better benefits that would be fully covered by the HRA. There are other plans, of course, that have higher premiums, that would have lower copays, and that those funds could be used, the $600 could be used to buy up, essentially, to those plans.
Thank you. Any other questions, Legislator Hebert?
Yeah, I still have a couple.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Madam
That's
Chair.
fine.
Through the chair, what happens if a retiree did not apply for an HRA plan by the deadline, which I think is midnight tonight, which is the open enrollment period?
Through the chair, the open enrollment period for Medicare is set nationally by the federal government, and tonight at midnight is the deadline for open enrollment, and we have been trying to educate our retirees extensively on the need to enroll in a plan before that deadline, including doing outbound phone calls to any retiree that we had reason to believe had not enrolled in a plan that was, that should have. So we've put in an extra effort to make sure that folks select a plan that will be effective January 1. If, in the case, someone does not select a plan by the federal open enrollment period, the federal government mandates that they return to traditional Medicare. So no retiree will end up no retiree will end up without health insurance coverage. They will have traditional Medicare. The issue with that, though, and why we're trying to educate to such a great extent, is that traditional Medicare does not come with prescription drug coverage. And as anyone who's ever gone to the pharmacy knows, prescription drug coverage is very important to control your out-of-pocket expenses. You'd mentioned the HRA portion of the plan. The county has auto-enrolled every eligible retiree into the HRA. So whether a retiree selects a Medicare Advantage plan or by accident or on purpose goes to traditional Medicare, they have access to that $600 on January 1. We would have preferred to auto-enroll all the retirees into a direct pay plan. The federal regulations specifically do not allow that to occur. And so that is why we set about an aggressive education campaign to inform people of the plan and the need to enroll by the deadline.
Thank you.
Thank you. Once again, through the chair, it's my understanding that the county has been moving Medicare-eligible retirees to Medicare Advantage for some time. Do you know how long that is?
Through the chair, the county has had a consistent practice that when a retiree becomes Medicare eligible, that they are required to enroll in Medicare, and they are transitioned from whatever health plan they were in and transitioned to a Medicare eligible health plan. That practice has been going on unabated for over 40 years.
Only about 3 more, sorry. Can you tell me, did this administrative change violate any previous resolution of this legislature, the preceding Board of Supervisors, the Taylor Law, or any collective bargaining agreements?
Through the chair.
I'm sorry, through the chair.
Through the chair, it did not. I think a highly detailed conversation about that, because of the nature of litigation and collective bargaining, could only be had with upon advice of the county attorney or executive session, something to that effect. But it's important for this body to know that the issue of whether transitioning retirees onto Medicare at Medicare eligibility, that issue has been litigated in multiple forums for over a decade, and the courts have ruled that the county's procedures do not violate any contract or any provision of law or any resolution. So the question of whether the county has violated a contract promise has been resolved by the courts in the county's favor.
Thank you. Very thorough answers. And having just had to transition to Medicare myself in 2016, I know it's a complex process and difficult to understand because I spent almost literally days doing it. So thank you for your thorough answers, and I am done, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Legislator Morelli.
Excuse me. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Through you to the administration, can you tell me the total number of county retirees?
I can give you an approximation. I've been concentrating on Medicare eligible retirees recently in this process, and so I've not recently looked at the total population. The total population, I would ballpark it at 2,500.
Thank you. And Through you, Madam Chairwoman, how many retirees are going to be affected by the changes that the county is making to retiree program?
Through the chair, approximately 1,800.
Thank you. And through you, Madam Chairwoman, what is the total number of county retirees enrolled in the current version of the Blue Million plan?
Through the chair, again, I don't have that number at my fingertips. Aside from the 1,800, there are 3 categories that retirees can fall into. They can be pre-Medicare, of which they can be pre-Medicare in a managed care program. They can be pre-Medicare in what is commonly known as Blue Million. And they can be post-Medicare in what's called Classic Blue Secure, but many people still refer to it as Blue Million. So between the 1,800 and my shot at 2,500 is 700, divided between those 3 categories.
Okay, thank you. And through you, Madam Chairwoman, is the current plan, is this the only current plan that will remain available going forward?
Through the chair, as pre-Medicare retirees who are in a managed care plan become Medicare eligible, this is the plan that they will go into.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chairwoman, how was it that the $600 annual payment was decided upon, and will that figure remain unchanged over the course of the future?
Through you, through the chair, the $600 figure was determined administratively after looking at the number of plans that could be purchased for that price or less, and determining that that was a equitable split of providing good choices to retirees and saving money for taxpayers. The second half of your question, as far as the number going forward, it wouldn't be appropriate to create a binding contract or promise on that dollar amount. The county has never had a binding contract or promise when it comes to Medicare coverage, and so I don't feel comfortable being a person who would make a binding contract to prevent a future administration or a future legislature from making a decision.
Mm-hmm. Through you, Madam Chairman, you mentioned a future legislature being able to make that decision. So let me ask this. Why is it that this change was not approved by the legislature or through a collective bargaining agreement?
Through the chair, I think an in-depth answer to that could take us down the road of the lawsuits and the collective bargaining. But an answer that I feel comfortable giving is that the county has administratively chosen the Medicare plan every single year for 40 years, and so that continued this year. And so that's the answer as to why it did not come to the legislature, because it's never come to the legislature. It's been handled administratively, and that's the reason why it wasn't subject to collective bargaining as well.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chairwoman, obviously we've had several members of the sheriff's retirees stop in and speak to us in regards to this. Through you, can you explain, maybe perhaps clarify whether the agreement that sheriffs retired on, from what has been told to us, allowed them to keep their coverage for life, and so why it is then, if that's the case, and if you could clarify that for us, if that is indeed the case, why is it that agreement has been determined to be null and void, and that moving forward, this is the plan that the retirees, specifically the sheriff's retirees, will be under?
Through the chair, there's certain elements of that. Well, there were several questions in there.
Mm-hmm.
and I will endeavor to answer them the best I can without endangering the county in its litigation. I guess one part of that answer is that all county retirees who are Medicare eligible, who are on a Medicare Advantage plan now, are being treated equally the same, whether they were a building service worker, or whether they were a sheriff, or whether they were an elected official. Just anecdotally, I was at one of the information sessions, and at that information session, Howard and Betsy Rellin were there making a Medicare choice, and they were very excited, and they wanted to know, how this wasn't going to cost the county more. I also met with former Minority Leader Bill Benet, who was describing how the change in plans with this option would allow him to buy a Medicare supplement plan that was going to save him and his wife $4,000 each in out-of-pocket expenses, because they were going to buy up to a plan with almost no copays. So as far as who is affected, it's equitable, it's equal. There is no special treatment for former managers or elected officials. So that was one element of your question, although not the main elements of your question. I would agree. Well, how about this? Why don't you remind me of the parts I didn't answer?
Well, I think you've, for the most part, answered my question through the chair. Mm-hmm. However, I guess, and perhaps you're not the person to answer the question, but the retirees of the Sheriff's Department have indicated that they specifically had a contract. So I guess perhaps the law department can clarify. Is that an incorrect statement, that the sheriff's retirees did not have an agreement separate of that of other employees of the county?
Through the chair, I will endeavor on that one as well. So the courts have ruled on this matter of whether the contract language in the sheriff's contracts, which, by the way, is the identical language to all the labor contracts. So there's nothing unique in the sheriff's labor contracts that would provide them with something better or worse when it comes to this issue. It's all the same. That language did not cover what happens when people become Medicare eligible, and therefore the issue of what is the appropriate procedure depends on what the county's past practice has been. And so for 40 years, the county has chosen the Medicare plan available to retirees, and the courts have ruled that that is not a binding promise. So the retirees, and I have met with SOAR retirees on numerous occasions over the years, as recently as November 21st, and also last year in my office. And they all bring me photocopies of the contracts, and they put their finger upon them, and they ask me whether I can read. And while I do have that ability, I also do not have the ability to wave away 40 years of past practice, which the court has upheld. So hopefully that gets towards the answer.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Mm-hmm. Is there any other questions? Legislator Felder.
I have a few.
Mm-hmm.
Through the chair, first of all, how old is Medicare Advantage? How long has it been around?
Through the chair, I believe it was in the early 80s, started as something called Medigap, and it has evolved over the years.
So it wasn't around 40, through the chair, so it wasn't around 40 years ago?
I mean, I wasn't here 40 years ago. I may have lived in this county 40 years ago through the chair, but I wasn't employed here 40 years ago. So, you know.
The chair, the question is, did Medicare
knowledge.
Advantage exist 40 years ago?
I think he answered that.
Through the chair, I believe it did. And Medicare certainly did.
Didn't. Just for the record, it didn't. Next question. you may say this gets into collective bargaining, but through the chair, was the union consulted prior to making the change to the health care?
Through the chair, yes.
Did the union agree to the change?
Through the chair, agreement was not required.
Well, through the chair, the language I saw said consult. It didn't say inform.
Through the chair, in labor relations, the word consult means to tell somebody it does not require agreement. That would be the word negotiate.
Okay, that's not my definition of consultation. Another question I had.
Pardon?
Through the chair, does the fact that something has been done for 40 years make it right?
Through the chair, I was thinking about your earlier question about when Medicare Advantage plans came into being, and what I was thinking is that maybe you thought I was saying that the practice of Medicare-eligible retirees leaving their pre-65 plan and going on to a Medicare plan was exclusive to Medicare Advantage. It was not. Probably 40 years ago, we might not have had Blue Choice, and at that time it might have only been Blue Million, but always at Medicare eligibility, retirees transitioned from the pre-Medicare version and went to a Medicare version. So I thought I would bring that up because I don't think I answered your question well enough the first time.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. Is your
But
question answered?
just for one comment,
Mm-hmm.
I heard this thing about past practice several times, and I think it's a dangerous thing to say that we've done something for so long and we've gotten away with it, therefore that makes it okay and we can keep doing it. That's not my idea of how we should be doing things. I'll leave it at that.
Any other discussion? Legislator Cayley or Barath? Okay, Legislator Barath. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mm-hmm.
Just one brief technical question. It was mentioned earlier that one of the advantages of going forward is portability, that the retirees can go to anywhere in the United States. Does that hold true for the $600 of compensation or additional support for co-pays? Through the chair.
Through the chair, the $600 in the health reimbursement account is how the portability is accomplished. So that if a retiree, for instance, has gone out and purchased a Medicare Advantage plan here in the Rochester area, and then they decide to fully relocate, and I'm not referring to, say, what some people call snowbirds, but somebody who fully relocates to another, let's say they go to Arizona, they can then use that $600 to purchase a plan there. If there's a $0 plan there, they can attain that plan and still have the $600. That's how the portability is accomplished, and the county no longer has to terminate their coverage.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on this? Legislator Cayley. Mm-hmm.
Madam Chair, through you to the administration. In some of the information that we received from groups that were not happy with this, the first letter, I'm assuming, was dated September 2017 and received on 10/6/17, and it starts off by saying, subject retiree health insurance flexibility. Does that sound about right for the timeline, the initial letter going out at the end of September?
Through the chair, that sounds all right to me.
Thank you. And through the chair, how many subsequent letters went out?
Through the chair, that letter was followed by a comprehensive information packet that included, a number of attachments. Mailing number 3 was a postcard reminder with all the dates, times, and locations of the information sessions. Mailing number 4 was a letter that went specifically to people that we thought had not enrolled in a plan yet, that reminded them and then also pointed out that a popular plan choice was the $0 plan that was identical to the one that they have. And mailing number 5 went again to the group of folks that we thought had not enrolled yet, that had a big reminder, December 7th is coming.
Thank you. And then through the chair, could you give me the dates of the mailings other than the first one, which I have in front of me?
I mean, if you will allow me the leeway of my memory.
Sure.
Okay.
Through the chair.
The second packet arrived, I believe, approximately October 19th. The third mailing went out on approximately November 2nd. And the fourth mailing went out on, I believe, November 20th. And the last mailing went out on Monday.
Thank you. And I do have a couple more. Through the chair, I've heard it said at least twice that the Excelis plan was identical to the current plan. But in this letter, bear with me, it says, which is nearly identical. Now, there's a difference between identical and nearly identical. And I do have a copy of 2012 versus 2017, where it does add up in the differences of copay. So were you accurate in the first letter that said nearly identical, or are you being accurate now when you're saying that the Excelis plan is identical?
Through the chair, thank you for that question. There is a apples to oranges comparison in your question. The document that I think you're referring to that shows a plan in 2012 and a plan in 2017 is an apples to oranges comparison. If you were to look at that document for the 2012 column, I believe it says Blue Choice Extended. And for the 2017 column, it says Medicare Blue Choice. So, presuming that I'm correct there, Blue Choice Extended is a pre-Medicare plan that is available to retirees who had it at time of retirement. That plan continues to be available today to those retirees who were in that plan. That plan has not been discontinued. That plan has not been changed in any significant way that I am aware of. So what is the 2017 plan? The 2017 plan is a Medicare Advantage plan that's provided. And so when a retiree becomes 65, they have to switch from their pre-Medicare plan to their Medicare plan. Those plans are not identical and never have been identical. So with reference to the letter and the material in my comments tonight that talk about nearly identical, and sometimes I'll refer to it as slightly better. I think all of those are accurate because they are not comparing a pre-Medicare plan from 2012 to a Medicare plan to 2017. They are comparing the 2017 Medicare plan to the plan that is available from Excelis in 2018. There are approximately 65 categories of copays in these plans, of which I believe 58 of them are identical. 2 of them are not as good. One is $7 more per day for long-term skilled nursing facilities. The other one is specialist doctors that you speak to through your phone. So not the doctor you see, but telemedicine is $50 instead of $25. Then there are 8 categories where the benefit is superior. And those are categories such as, I believe it's ambulance copay, and emergency room copay, and I believe it is also hearing aid copay. So when I use the phrase nearly identical, it's because that is kind of the lightest comparison. It is much more accurately referred to as slightly superior.
Thank you. And then through the chair. In the initial letter, I guess I'll preface this with, through the chair, I'm picking on the first letter. And I'm picking on it for a reason, because if I were to read this and I would get it in the mail, it would be an alarming letter, so I understand why people are alarmed. To me, I could pick this apart and say, much of what is said in here is good information, but was it delivered in a way that would calm someone? I don't think so. I don't think it was your intention as well. I don't think it was the intention to scare people, but I could see where reading through this, it would be something that was frightful. You did say through the chair that there was more than one program that was 0 in a premium plan. Could you tell me which ones, which other carriers those were?
Yes, I believe I can. That information was provided in writing to all affected retirees and is on our website right now. We have a document from Lifespan that details plans that are available here in the local market, and I will flip through that.
But through the chair, if I could be provided with that, because I don't know that I have that, that would be fine.
Yep.
That would answer the question. Through the chair to the administration, when did the website go up?
Through the chair, the website went up before the first letter went out.
So, through the chair, September, August?
End of
please?
September.
Thank you. There's one more. Any other? I guess that's it. I certainly have other opinions that I would give, but I'm done for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Legislator Cayley. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'd like to thank Mr. Connor for these very detailed answers to the questions.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much. Now I would like to introduce the we've waited for him, Mr. Robert Franklin, Chief Financial Officer of Monroe County. He's here to present the proposed 2018 Monroe County budget as it pertains to the Ways and Means Committee. We'll have a question and answer period too after his Mr. Franklin's presentation. Thank you, welcome. Oh, I've got to move, right?
I just got to see if I need to flip a button here. Yes, sir. Thank you, Madam Chair, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight I present to you the 2018 proposed Monroe County as it pertains to the Ways and Means Committee. Very briefly, overall Monroe County's budget is roughly $14.9 million, or 1.3%, higher than the adopted budget for 2017. In round numbers, it's still a $1.2 billion budget, same as last year. The largest dollar increase, $14.2 million, relates to mandated spending, whereas the largest percentage increase can be seen in our non-mandated spending. In total, however, I would like to comment, our budget does comply with New York State's tax cap and our local Taxpayer Protection Act. Spending by functional area going into 2018 is very much in line with our spending from the 2017 budget. Like 2017, human and health services combined account for about 57% of Monroe County's expenditure appropriations. And when you add in public safety expenditures, we've accounted for just over 78% of budgeted appropriations. Also consistent or in line with 2017 is our 2018 budgeted revenue sources, the top three of which are real property taxes at 32%, our state and federal aid combined 27%, and our sales tax revenue, which is roughly 12%. And I would like to note this 12% really reflects only the amount that Monroe County retains. Per the Moore-Ryan Agreement from 1985, a little over 30 years ago, Monroe County shares with towns, villages, school districts almost 70% of our sales tax revenue. The departments most pertinent to the Ways and Means Committee, as you review the budget book, you'll find appropriation increases in each of these departments, with three exceptions. Of course, the county legislature, you will notice, is a flat budget from 2017. Our law department and our finance department, if you can exclude all the unallocated stuff, both law and finance actually were able to lower their budgeted appropriations, but frankly, that's largely due to
change in interdepartmental chargebacks. So, Madam Chair, that really concludes the presentation. Happy to entertain questions.
Thank you, Mr. Franklin. I will now open the floor to any committee members who have any questions regarding the Ways and Means portion of this budget. Any questions? Legislator Barath, would you like to start us?
Two.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome.
First, I would like to say thank you for the administration for putting forth the budget. I know it took a lot of hours and a lot of work went into it. I particularly love seeing this last presentation by Mr. Franklin, just because it's become a very fine-tuned presentation. I do appreciate that. No, seriously, it's very succinct. I like that. I did have a number of questions, of course, and I'll just start off with a question that came from a prior committee meeting having to do with mandated expenses, because it occurred to me when we were discussing for the Office of Public Integrity, and part of the Office of Public Integrity's expenses are deemed to be mandated. The answer to what that was that it was primarily FICO and other payroll tax charges. That was mandated. Is that correct, my understanding, that the OPI's mandated expenses primarily from the taxes due to the state from payroll? Through the Chair?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So my question is, how much of the total budget of the Monroe County total budget of the mandated expenses are actually coming to FICO and other taxes that we have to give to the state because of payroll laws? Do we have a number for that through the Chair?
Excellent question, Madam Chair. That is a report we can run. We can run the entire county budget by commitment item in total. So certainly, perhaps not at this moment, but I could provide you the county-wide budget for FICA.
I would really appreciate that. I'm actually very curious as to what that would be. Thank you. We're off to a good start. So going to page 142, if we could.
Okay.
I was looking at the, this is under the Finance Department, looking at the major accomplishments that were put out there. And way down there's one of the accomplishments is developing new cash management strategies to increase interest income. And my question is, what sort of strategies are we talking about, and how much interest income did we actually save through the Chair?
I'm sorry, Madam Chairman, I actually missed the very first part of that question.
No problem. One of the 2017 major accomplishments was to develop a new cash management strategy, increase interest income. And my question is, what sort of strategies are we talking about, and how much interest income did we save or acquire?
Madam Chair, thank you. The different strategies include looking at different or existing banks that we currently have relationships with and evaluating the rates of return they are offering for the different types of products that they allow Monroe County to take advantage of. It would include shifting, I guess I will call it temporarily idle funds into higher interest-bearing accounts. It also includes reviving an old strategy that the county employed years ago, and that is purchasing treasuries, either 30, 60, or 90-day treasuries as cash flows allow. In terms of interest, the question was interest saved. It's really interest earned as the revenue stream. Madam Chair, in very round numbers, I would just suggest that in 2015, from a general fund perspective, we earned roughly $58,000 or $60,000. In 2016, that had increased to about $176,000. In 2017, as of April, was about $154,000. That's the number I remember. Projected to the end of 2017, it probably is going to be in excess of $300,000. So, good improvement, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That is actually sounds like a very good improvement indeed. I'm curious, when you talk about the moving funds from temporary idle accounts into higher interest accounts, is that something that we could perhaps encourage, I'm thinking about MCC to utilize, because I know they have a large cash reserve that we've discussed in the past, and that might be something useful for them as well to get better rates of return on their accounts. Do we know if our partner MCC is likely to do anything like this, taking the lead, taking the hint from the county through the chair?
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I really don't have active conversations with the finance staff at our community college.
Thank you. But through the chair of the administration, that's something that we might want to follow up on. If it's showing such good returns, you're talking about essentially increases of about 200 to 300% over time, and that sounds to me very significant. But I'll move on. I recognize you don't represent MCC.
Thank you.
I saw Mr. Frank, someone looking over there. If we go on to page 143, under the major objectives, I want to look at the last one, because it says continue to develop an automated RFP system as a module in Contract HQ. And the only reason I'm asking is this was a goal from 2017. So how is the progress going on this implementation or development?
Madam Chair, that would be it's kind of a cool, I don't know, it's not that cool, but it's it's something we could certainly would like to do in Contract HQ. I love that system for routing our contracts. It was not accomplished in 2017. Quite frankly, the county executive had talked about putting our contracts online, so we kind of shifted our efforts and prioritized the task of creating an outward-facing portal for our county contracts.
So it's an ongoing process then through the chair?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay. And still on the major objectives, I have a question regarding the third to last bullet, talking about modifying the form RP 5217. And my question is, do we have a process to make the digital subdivision maps available to surveyors and engineers online currently through the chair?
Currently, digitally, no, we do not, Madam Chair.
Okay. I asked because that was a 2017 major objective, and so I guess my question is, how far along are we in that process through the chair?
It's still a twinkle in our eye, Madam Chair.
So through the chair, while that's a nice way of putting it, I assume we don't have any particular, it's not currently a goal. Is that that we're actively working on through the chair?
Madam Chair, a lot of the finance accomplishments and goals are not that exciting. I'm actually just trying to reduce them going in the future, but it is something we are still very interested in and would like to see it accomplished in the coming year or so. Well,
speaking as one legislator, I will tell you they are interesting. I look at these and I do pay attention. So keep going for it.
Thank you all, both.
Okay, on the same page, I want to go down to a look at the overlook of the department budget on page 143, and under the appropriations by division in purchasing, there's a significant decline from $785,000 to $465,000. Could you explain why we have that decrease through the chair?
Yeah, Madam Chair, there are some changes in personnel costs that go up due to the contract negotiations that have been settled. There's a slight decrease in FTEs, a half position, but really a lot of this is decrease, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, a lot of this really is an increase in what we charge out in interdepartment charges for our ICAP, our indirect cost allocation plan. So really it's our ICAP charges that drove a lot of the changes in the different divisions of finance.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Going to page 444, I'm still under Finance Department, and I'll wait a minute.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay. If you look at account number 989030, chargeback for purchasing, it was only $12,000 about in 2016, and then 2017 was budgeted for $821,000, and then for 2018, $1.1 million. Why are these significant, huge increases through the chair?
Yeah, Madam Chair, this really is largely driven by our ICAP.
Same thing.
Federal government mandates the process on which we calculate ICAP, indirect cost allocation. It really is a 2-year lag, Madam Chair. So 16 actuals really drive the 2018 budget.
Okay. So through the chair of the administration, that would be the same answer for chargeback for controller as well?
Madam Chair, I would also be remiss if I didn't point out there's actually an ICAP 1 and an ICAP 2, because it's really a two-step process that's laid out in the rules. But you're going to see, I guess I'll just label them dramatic changes in the ICAP in each of the areas of finance, or likely each area of finance. Controllers, CFO, purchasing, maybe not so much OMB.
Okay. But fair enough. It's still essentially the same answer for that line, correct? Through the chair?
It really is, Madam Chair.
Okay. I mean, I'm not going to worry about hair splitting there, but okay. Going to page 445, I just have what I hope is a quick question. If you look under line 504665, accrued judgments and claims, the 2016 actual was negative 2.4 million, and that's zeroed out for the rest of the way. But if you go back to 2015 actual from the prior year's proposal, the 2015 actual was 1.2 million. Can you explain why we went from such a high amount to a very low amount to nothing?
Yes, Madam Chair. For the most part, that really is a year-end adjustment we make. It's mostly related to medical costs. It's called IBNR, incurred but not yet reported. So Monroe County has to book a liability for medical and workers' comp claims incurred but not reported. And we really only do a year-end adjustment to that overall liability. So that's why you see either positive or negative amounts in any one given year.
Thank you. So moving forward, next year, for example, we'll see changes in those amounts on this budget line, correct?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay. I'm still with the Finance Department, but on page 629. There are three account numbers. Oh, wait, sorry. Let me know when you're...
Yes, Madam Chair.
406,000, 406,010, and 406,105. Are these all county service chargebacks on the tax bills?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And then still on the same page, line number 410205. What is or was this miscellaneous revenue line?
Back in 2016, Madam Chair, it really was what the Finance Department charged for our services to various LDCs.
So that line really is dead and gone then through the chair?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Thank you. One moment, please. I'm going to shift gears here a little bit on everyone. And if we could go to page 94, which is communications. First off, I just want to point out that this is an area I chatted about last year in terms of the major objectives for 2017. And I would note that as opposed to 2016 and 2017, these objectives have been revised. And so in which case I'll say, good. It's a good thing they've been revised. My question is, the last one, because the first three are kind of the same as the prior objectives, but they've been modified, and that's fine. But the fourth objective is new, and that's to process all FOI requests and respond to any inquiries in a timely manner. And my question is, given that I like this a good addition, has this been an area of prior concern for the Department of Communications?
Through the chair, that is an excellent question. Clearly, the county executive has laid out a commitment to increase transparency and accountability in county government, in all ways possible. And so, obviously, the Freedom of Information request is one of the primary functions by which we can bring government accountability to the residents of the County of Monroe. And FOIL is clearly a growing demand on the department. We receive several thousand inquiries per year through the department. Some of those are routine, some of them are more complex. They can range from documents that are one page to several thousand pages. At times they're produced in printed form, and times they're produced in electronic form. And so therefore, obviously, that fourth major objective is somewhat subjective because we can't always place a hard deadline on the return for FOILs in general. But obviously, it is a priority and a prerogative for the department to be able to turn those foils around quickly, because I think that's what residents would expect and deserve.
Thank you. And thank you. You actually foreshadowed my follow-up question to that, and that is, what will the measurables for this be? I mean, what will be the rubrics so we know whether or not we succeeded through the chair next year?
Through the chair, I think to reiterate what I said before, it is something that would be hard to measure objectively. I think generally by limiting a reasonable metric would be the number of times that we have to extend a request before we can fulfill the function. So if you fill the number of time extensions that are issued by the time the FOIL is ultimately fulfilled, that could be one metric. But again, no one FOIL is always the same as other FOIL requests. And there are some significantly large and onerous ones that have come in. I'm proud to say that our department has worked with some of our more frequent requesters to inform them of different opportunities they may have to actually find information online that's publicly posted right now. So instead of processing the request through our department and adding to those freedom of information request totals, which obviously get logged into this system and then become part of the ongoing processing, adding increased strain on the department, by informing them as to what is potentially already available to them online, we can avoid that request being remitted in the first place, and hopefully ease the growth, which it is significant growth in the number of FOILs we receive year over year, and that'll help us expedite those FOILs, hopefully.
Thank you. Through the chair of the administration, I would make a suggestion that might help with metrics, and that is to find a way, and I don't think it would be too terribly difficult if you had some definitions to say, and I would make up the words, like simple FOIL request versus complicated, unusual FOIL request with a definition, and then you could have different metrics for both of those. Would be a suggestion that would, I would think next year, at least from my point of view, would be very, very much welcome.
Through the chair, it's certainly something we can consider. A lot of what governs our process day to day on FOIL is obviously set by state law, but in terms of internal procedures, certainly that's something that we might be able to incorporate within our system. We'd be happy to take a look.
Yeah, especially when we're talking about metrics of performance, not necessarily compliance with the actual FOIL process. Through the chair.
Through the chair, certainly.
Okay, and on page 457, still with communications, why are salaries, that's account 501000, increasing by $25,000 some dollars with no change in the number of personnel? Is that strictly due to our, benefits and pay increases, or something else entirely? Through the chair.
Madam Chair, this is more of a routine answer to the increase in salaries on page 457. Frankly, it's the result of filling positions that have already been authorized, even in the 2017 budget, and additional step increases, plus the staff and communications follow the CSEA contract agreement. So this budget has to account for basically 2 years' worth of pay increases due to the last contract settlement.
Yeah, that makes sense. Through the chair of the administration, though, I can't imagine if it's only $25,000, it could be filling an unopened position, though. Could it, through the chair? I mean, a single position has to cost more than that. I'd hope.
Madam Chair, comparing 2017 budget to 2018 budget, you're really looking at funded positions. So even if the position was funded in both years, the increase really is the routine increases.
Yes. Thank you. My oversight. Thank you for clarifying. I'd like to go back to page 455. So talking about human resources at this point in time. In particular, there's line number 504320, professional services. It's basically going from 2016 of 83,000 and up to 151 to 146. But if you go back in time to 2015, actual was 124, and the 2016 estimate was 122. It's not really going up so much as reverting to a prior level. My question is, what happened in 2016 actual to be so low for professional services? Through the chair.
Chair, I'd be happy to research that and respond before Tuesday.
Thank you. I'd appreciate that.
Any other questions, Legislator Brock?
Yes. Sorry, I was doing a momentary
That's
thinking
right.
process here.
Mhm.
On page 456, there's account number 989010, chargeback for human resources. It's dropping by $105,000. Do you have an explanation for why that decrease is occurring through the chair?
Madam Chair, not an explanation specific to human resources, only to say that the 2018 budget is based on a 2-year lag. So we look at 2016 actuals to project a 2018 budget.
So essentially, you're talking about it's a prediction based on past needs through the chair.
Yes, Madam Chair, not perfect, but that's just how the federal government lays it out.
Thank you, I understand. That makes sense. Going back to HR's major accomplishments from 2017 on page 160. HR. Are we there? Thank you.
Yes,
The
Madam
first
Chair.
major accomplishment was implementing the self-service, manager self-service system functionality to additional departments, 12 additional departments, which we talked about in prior years, and that's, something we've been working on. I know the 2017 goal was to have all of them complete. Are there any departments left that need to be converted to the system through the chair?
As of right now, Madam Chair, I believe there are. I can't recite them off the top of my head.
Do you have an idea of how many there might be? A couple? Only a few through the chair? Well, if you don't, I can go for a written down answer later on. It's fine as well through the chair.
Madam Chair, the ones that I recall are the Sheriff's Office, Department of Human Services, and Monroe Community Hospital.
And through the chair, the administration, do you have is there a scheduled anticipation of when they will be converted as well through the chair?
Yes, Madam Chair. I don't have that schedule with me tonight, however.
Would it be possible to have that before Tuesday through the chair?
Madam Chair, we have the IS Director here, and all phases of this implementation should be completed by July of 2018.
July 2018. Thank you. And then finally, I did want to say congratulations for the Deferred Compensation Plan winning a prestigious Communicator of the Year award. It seems like an opportunity to brag. What is this? It's an opportunity to brag. It's a good thing.
Madam Chair, at the risk of speaking on behalf of the HR Director, who is the Deferred Comp Committee Chair, I will say between this and my prior employment, I participated on 3 Deferred Comp Committees. This is the most well-run committee I've experienced in my career, and the award for communication is related to the efforts on behalf of the committee, ICMARC, which is our plan administrator, M&T Bank. I'll throw out Dennis Morihara since he should get most of the credit, and Generations Capital. I think it's Generations Capital Management, which is an investment advisor. And basically, our communication efforts on behalf of the committee and the plan administration to our members, both in terms of written communication, web communication, outreach, and the new mobile app. Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you. Through the chair of the administration, I did have one last question about the 2017 objectives, and that was the implement the electronic onboarding system. Did that occur through the chair?
Madam Chair, again, speaking on behalf of HR, yes, that did occur.
Done. Okay. That should have been a major accomplishment, I would say, but okay. Through the chair of the administration, I'd like to move on to information services. And for that, let's go to page 211. In particular, I want to look at the 2018 major objectives because there are 3 of them that are primarily reflective of 2017 major objectives. In particular, we're talking about continuing the cybersecurity initiatives. The implement the legal hold and e-discovery were both objectives from 2017. My question is, why did this not occur in this past year, through the chair?
Sorry. Through the chair, the reason that didn't happen in 2017 is we are looking at different software products that would affect how we would move forward and implement this. We are switching from Lotus Notes to Microsoft Outlook, which will, again, we'll be utilizing that as part of our e-discovery process. So we're coordinating it with that instead of doing that just as two separate components.
Okay. But I'm glad we're moving to Outlook. I suppose that's a good thing. Lotus Notes. Sorry. Okay, so through the chair of the administration, how about for the fiber network improvements? So there's a plan for the fiber network improvements. That was a 2017 goal. Is that an ongoing process, or is it delayed? What's going on with that through the chair?
Through the chair, the vendor gave us the final report just within the past month, so we still need to review those recommendations and determine what of those we would want to move forward with.
So through the chair of the administration, is it that the vendor took longer than we anticipated through the chair?
It did take much longer than we thought it was going to take, yes.
Okay, well, blame the vendor, I'm with that. That's good.
Through the chair.
Then finally, through the chair of the administration on these objectives, there's another one called Continue the Server Refresh Project. I assume progress has been made on this. It's just an ongoing thing. Is that the case through the chair?
Through the chair, that is correct. Given all our servers, we don't want to just replace them all at one time, so we do them over a period of time.
Thank you. Through the chair of the administration, if we go to page 213, I just want to ask a question. I noticed that, under the performance measures, the installation of workstations and printers and such was at a very low level from 294, 279, and we're jumping up in 2018 to 3,155. Am I correct to assume that's because of the abolition of the LDCs through the chair?
Through the chair, that is correct.
Thank you. Through the chair of the administration, have any of our data systems ever been broken into through the chair?
Through the chair, you may need to, I would like to define that a little bit more, but I will tell you we did have a WannaCry outbreak, but it had a inert payload, so we had no negative effects from it.
Thank you. I'm not sure what that entails. Could you please clarify what you meant by that?
With the through the chair, the WannaCry component?
Yes, that's the one.
Through the chair, the WannaCry is a virus that encrypts data when it gets into your system. However, this was one that we were able to patch for earlier on in the year, as well as it was also mitigated by other people out in the industry to make it not produce the effects that the writers wanted it to. So it did get into our network, but we were able to identify it, stop it, and contain it, and it never produced any negative impact. It never encrypted anything.
Thank you. And through the chair of the administration, in that case, I recall that event, not with Monroe County, but broadly speaking. Am I correct to assume we don't think that we were particularly targeted? It just occurred because we just clicked a button or something happened through the chair?
Through the chair, that is correct. And I think where you're going is we're not aware of being directly targeted specifically. I have no knowledge of that.
Thank you. And through the chair of the administration, do we feel reasonably confident about the security of our systems?
Through the chair, we are always adding additional protections as we can while being conscious of costs. And yes, I feel we are very well protected. We have a very strong patching program, which is kind of the #1 defense in this area. We have other mechanisms, training, et cetera, to educate our users to not click on things that can launch negative impacting viruses, et cetera. And we are always looking at new products that may come out that would be beneficial and cost-effective.
Thank you. Through the chair of the administration, my first question in this section had to do with the workstations and being installed and all that good stuff. Do you have an estimate, or how much do you estimate that the abolition of the UTC LDC is saving in 2017 and will save in 2018?
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, can you just repeat that question one more time?
Sure, of course. Through the chair, how much do we estimate that the abolition of the UTC LDC is saving us in 2017 and will save us in 2018? Through the chair.
Madam Chair, a similar question, I believe, was asked during Public Safety Committee, although they were asking about M3S. And I want to give a similar response. I have a dollar amount for you, Madam Chair. However, with each passing year, our ability to say what we are going to spend versus what would have the LDC spent becomes much more difficult to guess. The crystal ball just isn't that clear the further out in the future we go. What I have done, Madam Chair, is look at the debt service savings generated by refunding their debt and the administrative savings that have either been reduced or limited, and I averaged them out over the remaining debt period, which goes through 2020. And with this dissolution, on average, through 2020, annual savings are roughly $578,000.
Thank you. I suspect this might be related, but I don't know, so bear with me. But through the chair, on page 458, still in information services, there are two lines of interest to me under supplies and materials, and that is 505-020 and 505-035, computer software and computer equipment. They're going from a combined amount of about $57,000 in 2016 actual up to a combined amount of $650,000 by the 2018 budget. My question is this again in result of the LDC dissolution, or is that something different? Through the chair.
Through the chair, a lot of it was an accounting error that my department was doing. To be honest, we were using the incorrect GL or fund account, if I'm saying that correctly. And through the year, through in the mid-2017, we were advised that we need to be using 505020 for our software purchases. So as such, we have modified those numbers to reflect our actual needs and spending.
Okay. So through the chair of the administration, I need a little bit more clarification. So if this is the actual spending is about $600,000, give or take, and prior is reported to being somewhere in the neighborhood of $57,000, where was the rest of that accounted for? Through the chair.
Madam Chair, that dramatic increase is due to the fact that our contract for UTC services went away and we started budgeting for the actual materials.
Okay, that makes sense. I was going to say that would be a heck of an accounting error, but okay. So through the chair of the administration, to fall back on the prior question about the average annual savings from the UTC dissolution of about $565,000 or so, whatever the amount was. Does that include,
Madam Chair.
Does that include this increase from $57,000 to in the neighborhood of $600,000, and the other is about the increased number of workstation installations and things like that? Does that amount of savings take into account these additional expenses? Through the chair.
Indirectly, it does, Madam Chair, in that part of that number is derived by looking what the contracted payment would have been versus what we're going to incur in debt service and the related direct budgeted items.
Okay. Thank you. And then finally, for information services, on page, we'll take our pick, but we'll go for page 734 under a number of positions. And my question is, why is the number of authorized positions increasing by 7 for information services? What are those 7 positions? Through the chair.
Madam Chair, there is one new programmer position in the 2018 budget request. The other 6 positions, Madam Chair, really are related to organizationally the IS-related staff previously budgeted with Monroe Community Hospital will now organizationally be budgeted in our county IS, although their physical work location remains the hospital.
Thank you. So through the chair of the administration, from a budgetary perspective, this increase of 6 of the 7 anyhow are going to be reflected in a decrease of 6 elsewhere. Through the chair.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. And finally, you mentioned a new programmer position. Is that programmer position going to be related to a particular service? Through the chair.
Through the chair, I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
There's a new position, it's a programming position, and my question is, does that programming position have a particular service or project or anything like that that it's going to focus on, or is that position your general, I'll make it up, run-of-the-mill programmer position?
Through the chair, it is the run-of-the-mill programmer position. We have a lot of web work that we do, so there's definitely going to be a skill set in the web arena, but it is a general programmer, not just for one project.
Thank you very much. I'm going to shift gears again. If we could move up to page 383. And these questions are regarding the Sheriff's Department. I think I need to wait.
Chair, we do have a representative from the Sheriff's Office.
Yeah.
I see she's coming around.
Can we defer? No, I did not. I skipped that. Well, neither do I, so I didn't ask it. I was going to let people do the follow-up on that. Okay, we're set? Thank you, I'm sorry. Through the chair of the administration, on page 383, looking at the major accomplishments, particularly the one that says completed design scope for the public safety building second and third floor construction. This was a 2016 objective as well, was to complete the discussion, not just to complete the design and scope. What has changed in that we're going from completing in 2017 to just design and scope in 2017 through the chair?
Through the chair, Commander Fowler for the Sheriff's Office. What's changed between 2016 and 2017 is that the initial scope of the project returned cost estimates that far exceeded our initial estimates.
Thank you. So through the chair of the administration, essentially you had to find a way to either change the design or to lower the cost. Is that the case through the chair?
Through the chair, that's correct.
Okay, that makes sense. Through the chair of the administration, on page 385, under appropriations by objects as contractual services, there's an increase of about $2 million. What accounts for that increase of $2.1 million through the chair?
Through the chair, that price increase is due to the recent bid project for the inmate medical care.
Thank you. So through the chair of the administration, we're talking about it's primarily medical care then?
Through the chair, that's correct.
Yeah, I know we discussed that earlier. Thank you. Going to page 386, under appropriations by subject for Sheriff Administration, the supplies and materials, back in 2016, the amended was $4,000, $4,500, and then we budgeted for 2017 for like $2,600, but now the amended budget for 2017 is $102,000. Why is that, through the chair?
Madam Chair, during 2017, this legislature accepted several grants that amended the budget in this particular line.
Thank you. So through the chair of the administration, down below it has revenue state aid of $99,000. Is that primarily that, through the chair?
Yes, Madam Chair.
That makes sense. Thank you very much. On page 392, I have a question regarding the money and assets seized, excluding drug value. It's like third from the bottom of 392. In the actual 2016, it says $71,000 approximately, and then we're estimating for 17 and 18 it's going to be $75,000. But if you look back at the 2017 proposed budget, the actual for 2015 was $557,000, and the estimate for 2016 was $788,000, and the estimate for 2017 was $500,000. What has changed that we dramatically dropped by about $500,000 per year through the chair? But no, this excludes drugs. It's not drugs.
Madam Chair, we'll follow up to that question in writing.
I very much appreciate it, because that's a very significant decrease, and it doesn't have an explanation there, and it causes me some concern. Thank you. Through the chair of the administration, if we could go to page 395. It's a chart, but it's also referenced again on page 397 in terms of the performance measures, but the average daily jail population has essentially declined in a 2017 estimate and 2018 estimate by about 10%. My question is, do we have a reason for why that's occurring? And if so, are there any budgetary implications for having a 10% decrease in the population on an average daily basis? Through the chair.
Through the chair, there is, we don't have any specific cause for that reduction. We are noticing fluctuations, but they are trending towards increase in the parole holds, the probation holds, but the average traditional jail population is slightly under.
Thank you. Would you consider that to be trending as well, or is just this is at this point in time just a 1 to 2 year blip, or do you have any ideas on that? Through the chair.
Through the chair, at this point, I would say that that's a temporary trend, and I would hesitate very much to say that that's going to continue in that direction.
I appreciate that. We'll follow up next year, see where we stand then. Through the chair of the administration, I'm going to page 397. I have some questions regarding these performance measures. In particular, I want to note that the number of inmates receiving high school diplomas in actual 2016 is 42, and then the estimates moving forward is 30 and 30 for 2017 and 2018. But if you go back to 2015, the actual was 55, and the estimate for 2016 was 60. And then the percentages right below that, percentage of participants receiving diplomas, is at 39% for 2016, and it claims to go to 50% and 50% for 2017, 2018. But again, if you go back to 2015, it's 55% passage, and 2016, the estimate was going to be 60%. My question is, why is there such a steady decrease going on in terms of inmate participating in this high school diplomas or receiving it, the percentage of them? Through the chair.
Through the chair, I'm Ed Ignary, the Director of Rehabilitation for the Sheriff in the jail, and do oversee those education programs. And the biggest reason for the decline is that the state changed the testing format from what was commonly known as the GED to the task test. It's a much more difficult test. And so we've consequently seen a decline in the number of inmates trying to take the test and a number of inmates actually passing the test.
Okay. Through the chair of the administration, has the department done anything to change the way it encourages or supports the inmates to complete or at least attempt the task process, or is it utilizing the same process that was utilized for the GED test? Through the chair.
Through the chair, the process that is utilized to recruit inmates into the program is virtually the same. The instruction for the program is delivered through two different programs done by the city school district and by BOCES, one for adults and one for youth. The youth program is a mandated program through the state and is paid for by the state and conducted by the city school district. And that program utilizes counselors and social workers to, in fact, visit on a regular basis to encourage students to attend. The adult program is totally voluntary, and we have seen somewhat of a decline in that. That's based as much on the availability of instructors and instructors' time that is funded through a different mechanism in the state, and the funding for that has been decreased.
Thank you. Through the chair, so funding decreased. My bad. Through the chair of the administration, going to the next performance measure down below, having to do with inmates completing chemical dependency programs. The 2016 actual is 216, and we're anticipating it's going to go down to 124 and then 130. But if you go back to 2015, it was 323. And my question is, why is the number of inmates completing chemical dependency programs decreasing over time? Through the chair.
Through the chair, we've had a turnover in staff. We're in the process now of trying to replace some staff. So consequently, with less staff, we've been able to serve less inmates the last year or so. We also saw the loss of funding through the state that allowed us to have some grant-funded staffing that has since gone away.
Thank you. Through the chair of the administration, I'd point out that this is particularly distressing given the fact that there's, as we all know, there's an opioid epidemic. There's other things going on as well that, not just opioids, but others. And I would hope that this is a priority for getting the staff up and running again to the numbers that you can make available. I'm disturbed that, we're seeing for whatever reason, the number of people receiving high school diplomas and completing these chemical dependency programs is decreasing over the last couple of years. And that I find to be problematic. Particularly since, in light of the other performance measure, where we see the inmate work program participant hours is steadily going up. Back in 2015, the number was 27,000, and 2016 now it was 31,000, and we're estimating it's going to go up 32,000, and then 33,000, and we seem to be going gangbusters there. My question is, why is that increasing so happily through the chair?
Through the chair, those work program numbers are inmates that are signed. It's basically a community service program, and it's a reflection of the court's greater utilization of those programs. They're inmates that come in on Saturday and Sunday morning and go out and work doing cleanup jobs and other things throughout the community. It's not related to the inmates that are incarcerated full-time, for lack of a better description.
That's good to know. So these are non-incarcerated inmates, if that's the right term, correct, through the chair?
That's correct.
Okay. And then through the chair of the administration, the funds that are made, these, and we'll say the estimate for 2018, $345,000, where does these funds go? What is done with these funds? Are these funds spent to make this program happen, or what, through the chair? To pay for transportation, for example, or security, through the chair? I don't know.
Through the chair, that dollar figure represents the value of the work, not necessarily a currency exchange.
Okay, so through the chair, from an accounting point of view, what does that dollar amount represent for the budget's sake?
Madam Chair, this is really a state reporting measure. It really has no Monroe County budgetary impact.
Okay, I'll buy that. That makes sense. Thanks. Through the chair of the administration, we could go to page 662, please. And I have the same question for page 662 and 663. One's for the Jail Bureau and one's for the Court Security. And that's line item 410205, miscellaneous revenue. What is that, through the chair?
Chair? Just to clarify, I'm on page 662, looking at miscellaneous revenue, 410-205.
Yes.
Madam Chair, that's really a contractual obligation. This is the sheriff deputy's contribution to their parking costs.
Sorry, through the chair of the administration, $330,000 worth of parking costs, through the chair?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay. Parking costs. Through the chair of the administration, is that the same, or is that something different under page 663 for court security, same line?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Just for transparency's sake, through the chair, you might consider moving forward just labeling it parking costs. Just a thought, but that's neither here nor there. If we could go to page 232.
Bless you.
Which is the Office of Public Integrity. Thank you. Through the chair of the administration, regarding page 232, the first performance measure regards investigations completed within 30 days. When we say investigations, do we mean primarily audits, or is there something else we're talking about, through the chair?
Through the chair, David Moore, Public Integrity. That question actually covers audits and also investigations, administrative investigations, occasionally a criminal investigation.
Thank you. Through the chair of the administration, so when you talk, can you break down how many are investigations of any type and how many are audits of any type through the chair?
Yes, we are currently working on that number through the chair. We should have that after the first of the year so that we have an accurate number.
Okay. So through the chair of the administration, if that's the case, the estimate given for the 2017 is 90% completion. How is that estimate reached through the chair?
Through the chair, currently, as of last week, we were at about 86%. Quite often, there are some of the investigations that are a little more problematic, take a little more investigative processing, if you will. But quite often, we do make a determination to take an investigation that's quite lengthy, and we may simply file that as inactive at this time.
Okay. So of that 86% then, how many of those were audits or not audits through the chair?
Audits are a very small percent compared to our investigations.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I appreciate that.
Through the chair, thank you.
I was trying to get, I recognize it's a sensitive topic, but I'm trying to get some sort of feeling for what it is, and I appreciate that answer. Thank you. Finally, in terms of the accomplishments and objectives, I noticed that so far, most of the accomplishments have been training in nature, which I think is perfectly fine. My suggestion would be you might want to have something along the lines of an objective would be to have maybe a 100% response rate to all matters brought to your attention, whether or not they're retired, whether or not they're solved, no matter what the case, but 100% response rate, or at least addressing the concern brought forth. That might be a suggestion for an objective moving forward. I think that would help very much with clarity.
Very good. Through the chair, I thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And the chair will give me 1 second to look at our sheet of paper. If we could go to page 107. I'm running out, by the way. Getting close to being done. Under the libraries, so the cultural and educational services. On page 107, under the division budget revenue, there's miscellaneous grants and payments. My question is, what are these payments through the chair?
Madam Chair, this particular line item would include New York State member items, New York State E-rate reimbursement, it's electronic rate reimbursements. There is aid that's called bullet aid. Pardon me, I don't know specifically what bullet aid is. It has nothing to do with ammunition.
I assumed as much. Thank you. So these are, but it's correct to say then that at least the majority of these payments are coming from New York State through the chair?
Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. And going to the next page, it's under the mission statement, but it was an add-in from last year. So I recognize that these missions don't change over time, but this one did. And so my question is, there was an insert. So if you go through under Rochester Public Library Central Services, third paragraph, second line, it has ... the entire collection of books, etc., films, recordings, art reproductions, electronic resources, and other non-print. Electronic resources was added in. That wasn't there before. Could you tell me what that refers to that was not there before, prior, through the chair?
Madam Chair, although I do not speak for the library staff, I do know they've made excellent progress on expanding their electronic media resources, whether that be e-books or DVDs or other electronic formats of materials that can be either reviewed at the library or checked out, so to speak.
Through the chair of the administration, that makes sense. If it's possible that we could, I suspect you're right, but when we, oh, here she comes.
Madam Chair, just one moment, please. Thank you.
Through the chair, electronic resources generally refers to an increase in funding that we have put towards electronic books through our product called Overdrive, as well as additional electronic resources that are made available to all members of the Monroe County Library System, such as subscriptions to databases like Consumer Reports and A to Z Business Reference.
Thank you very much. And since you're there right now, I have another question about the libraries, particularly regarding on page 723. And so it's libraries MCLS/Central. There's a budget line under minor sales, so 410000. And my question is, back in 2015, actual was $6,000 some, and in 2016 actual, it's $6,000 some. But the 2016 estimate was about $14,000, and then we're amending up to $45,000 moving forward for 2017, 2018. What's going on with the minor sales there, through the chair?
Madam Chair, we'll research and respond to that question in writing before Tuesday.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. At this point in time, that's all the questions I have, but I could conceivably come back.
Thank you, Legislator Baroth. Any other discussion? Legislator Morelli?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. First of all, I'd like to thank the Finance Department, in particular Mr. Franklin, for all the work that he does on the budget, in particular answering with a great deal of knowledge all of our questions. So I would like to just again thank Mr. Franklin. I have a I'll start my questions in the Finance Department, page 444, account 989062, chargeback for the controller. In 2016, that number was little over $3,000. 2017 budgeted for $262,000, and then budgeted for 2018 to be $627,000. Can you explain why the such large increases?
Madam Chair, in addition to my explanation about the actuals in 2016 driving the 2018 ICAP, I would point out at least Controller's Office is one of those areas where there's an ICAP 1 and an ICAP 2. If this committee could look at the 2016 chargebacks for ICAP 1 and include them with the 2016 charges for ICAP 2, they do become closer to what was estimated for 16 and what was budgeted for 17. Granted, there still is a change for 2018, Madam Chair, but that's simply the 2-year lag in the ICAP.
Okay. Thank you very much. Going to finance unallocated, page 151, the county general appropriations are increasing from 1.5 million to 5.2 million. Can you explain exactly what exactly they are and why the large increases?
Yes, Madam Chair. That actually is I'm trying to remember if we touched upon this in a prior committee meeting. I believe you know that the Seneca Nation is in dispute with the state of New York over its casino revenue sharing obligations, in which they believe their obligations have been fulfilled, and the state of New York contests that those obligations should continue through 2021, Madam Chair. It is unknown right now if Monroe County will see any casino revenue sharing. I know the state is actively renegotiating that compact. Because it's unknown, Madam Chair, we took an opportunity to hedge our bets. Specifically, we are trying to put forward a 2018 budget that does not assume we were going to amortize our pension at all for 2018. So we took the opportunity to budget $3.2 million for retirement tied to casino revenue, so that, at least from a budget perspective, could be a payment we would make on a if-come basis.
Through you, Madam Chairwoman, on those lines, I believe it was back in 2017, we budgeted about $4 million for the Seneca Nation casino revenue. And then, obviously, as you mentioned, we're dropping that down to $3.2 million. But is it really financially prudent to take that into account, given that back in September of this year, you, Mr. Franklin, sent a letter to the chairwoman and indicated that loss was likely, that the revenue was not going to be coming in? I mean, I guess my question is, does this really make sense?
Madam Chair, it's an excellent question. This particular budget presentation is not built on the assumption we're going to collect this revenue and therefore make the pension payment. Specifically, Madam Chair, that's why we chose to budget this in finance unallocated rather than increase the anticipated budget expense that shows up in every county department. So we really tried to present this as an if-come basis, the pension payment would be made, Madam Chair.
Thank you. While we're on the matter of other revenue, and I would like to thank Mr. Franklin for getting back to the letter that I sent back in November. Through you, Madam Chairwoman, other revenues include $829,000 of reimbursement from the Water Authority. Of that, $341,000 is the routine annual debt service, as detailed on page 417. Can you explain to us what is the balance of the $488,000?
Actually, Madam Chair, it is not a balance. The $341,000 referenced has its own revenue line, Madam Chair. There is a revenue called Debt Redemption Water Authority of an equal amount of $341,000. So the $829,000 in change is really the Water Authority's payment or contribution, if you will, to Monroe County related to the dissolution of M3S and what we negotiated with them to be their share of the new debt service.
Okay. Thank you very much. Through you, Madam Chairwoman, other revenue also includes $653,000 for MC debt reimbursement. The county is responsible for the debt it issues for MCC, so who exactly is making the reimbursement here?
Madam Chair, this is another revenue item that's related to LDC dissolution. This one in particular is Monroe New Power. Under the old arrangement with Monroe New Power, I'm not sure the exact number, but MCC covered roughly 40% of the take-or-pay contract. With Monroe County issuing debt to, in essence, buy back and dissolve that LDC, MCC is continuing to contribute to Monroe County a calculated portion of the debt service. That's what this represents.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chairwoman, other revenue includes $9 million for the sale of tax liens in 2018. Will the county be selling tax liens in 2017, and if so, for how much?
It has, Madam Chair. We generally sell tax liens in 3 phases. We've completed 2. I believe the RFP responses are due tomorrow for the 3rd phase. So I can't fully answer the question, Madam Chair. So far, it's roughly, and if you allow me some ballpark, it's roughly $9 million.
Okay, thank you very much. Through you, Madam Chairwoman, the contribution to the City Place Fund is dropping $512,000 or 38%. Can you explain why that is the case?
Madam I just clarify a page number, please?
I'm sorry, through you, Madam Chairwoman, that is page 151.
Madam Chair, this change is really reflective of the savings associated with the county's purchase of City Place and associated city center parking.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chairwoman, page 630, sales tax. In 2018, the sales tax is budgeted to be about only about 1.4 million more than the actual in 2016, an increase of less than 2% over a two-year period. We also know that collections are running over budget this year. The second quarter key indicator report shows that the first 6 months of 2017 sales tax collections are up about $8 million, or 3.5% over 2016. So I guess my question through the chair is the estimate for 2018 a little low?
Madam Chair, I appreciate that question, and I'm going to answer it this way. Our 2017 projection right now is probably closer to 2.5 or 2.7% of growth over 2016. In terms of dollar amounts, that'll be roughly perhaps $5 million more than what the county budgeted for 2017. The 2018 budget of $148 million, Madam Chair, I would suggest is conservative, but I'm going to suggest it's not overly conservative for a couple reasons, Madam Chair. One is that in August of 2017, imports on the West Coast from the Pacific Rim were in a record high, and for the month of October, it was the second highest imports recorded, suggesting that there was quite a boost in the summer and early fall of 2017, which may or may not be repeated in 2018. In fact, the Journal of Commerce is reporting that there could be a marginal or nominal cooling off in the first 6 months of 2018. I would also suggest, Madam Chair, that sales tax revenue in 2013, 14, and 15 fell short of our budget for those years by a combined $15.6 million. We did exceed budget, Madam Chair, in 2016, and we will again perhaps in 2017 by a combined perhaps $7.6 or $8.6 million. So I would suggest that 2013 through 2017 we are still showing roughly a $7 to $8 million deficit in the combined sales tax collections, which is a significant financial hurdle for Monroe County to overcome. So I think the prudent budgeting approach for 2018 is to take a conservative view. And I'm confident that 148 is a fair and appropriate revenue estimate.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to jump back to the other revenue that is discussed. It includes $700,000 of revenue from the Civic Center garage. Are these parking fees after the LDC is abolished?
It is, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Madam Chairwoman, I'd like to discuss a couple of items in the county executive's budget. Page 441, we see an increase in salaries of about $58,000 or 10%, but no change in the number of personnel. Can you explain the increase?
Yes, Madam Chair. The 2017 budget, while there's no staffing changes into 2018, the 2017 budget did not fully fund a secretarial position in the front office. The 2018 budget, however, does account for funding that position.
Okay, thank you very much. Through you, Madam Chairwoman, how many employees in the county executive's office are carried in the budget of other departments, like, for instance, the assistant secretary to the county executive who is carried in the law department per page per page 735?
Madam Chair, that part-time position, to the best of my knowledge, is the only position not in the county executive, and we did discuss that last year, both in this chamber and amongst our own internal administrative staff. And since she does perform legislative and legal functions, we were all comfortable having her organizationally be in the law department.
Through you, Madam Chairwoman, are there, on that topic, and again, I know we did discuss it briefly last year, are there other departments in which they may work, the person may work in one department but are charged to another? Is that, are there several areas where that happens?
Madam Chair, are we specifically talking about the county exec's office?
No, through the chair, at this point, no, just in general.
Madam Chair, I don't believe there are.
Through you, Madam Chairwoman, page 218, we talk about LDCs. I'd like to clarify whether the LDCs that have been abolished by this body, have their charters been surrendered to the Secretary of State through the chair?
Madam Chair, those entities are dissolved legally through Attorney General or court action. I will say, I don't think we literally surrender a charter, but they are dissolved.
Through the chair, can the law department clarify whether that they believe that is a requirement that the charters be surrendered?
Through the chair, I'd get back to you on that. We used outside counsel for that process. I'm not aware that they were surrendered. I know the corporations were dissolved with the approval of the Attorney General's office and by court order.
Okay. Thank you very much. Page, through you, Madam Chairwoman, page 635, account 406,000, tax and assessment services, is $27,000 in 2018. Is this a county service charge back on the county tax bills?
Madam Chair, this would be, yes, Madam Chair, this is, and this is the revenue apportioned to the law department.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you, Legislator Morelli. Is there any other discussion, any other questions? Legislator Cayley?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Chairwoman. Thanks, Debbie. Not to belabor things, and I do have a few questions, but I can honestly say that my colleagues in front of me asked a number of them, so I'll try not to repeat myself or repeat them. But I do want to return to page 94 on communications, the objectives, if I could, through the chair. We have heard that one of the objectives is to complete FOILs in a more timely manner. And could you tell me if you actually have a time frame in mind of what you consider to be the longest you're going to let a FOIL go without indicating to someone that there is no answer?
Through the chair, can you repeat the question?
Sure. How long will you let a FOIL go on? Through the chair.
Through the chairman, to answer that question, I think to the best of my understanding, the best I can. As I mentioned earlier, most of the process that we follow through FOIL is set by state regulation and statute. As part of the FOIL process, we are required to acknowledge FOIL within we are required to acknowledge that we've received a FOIL within 5 days. We in that process, generally lay out a baseline expectation for our approximation of how long it'll take to remit that FOIL. Standard expectation is about 20 days. Oftentimes, if the request is complex or if it is significant in its scope or if there are significant legal concerns involved, the process could take longer. But I'd be uncomfortable with saying how long a FOIL could go on, only because our prerogative would be, and I think this is the expectation placed upon us both by state law and the expectation of our citizens, is that we will remit a FOIL as soon as it's prepared and legally permissible that we do so.
Okay, thank you. Through the chair, that is what I expected as an answer. I'll be honest, I believe that I have an outstanding FOIL that's over a year old. And so what my question is, within your objectives is wanting to respond, is there a way that you could communicate other than we need additional time when a FOIL requires something that's of a more sensitive nature?
Through the chair, certainly it's something that we would endeavor to do. Oftentimes when FOILs are complex or do involve special cases, our department will do proactive outreach to the requester simply to explain what the nature of the delay might be or what some of the constraints upon our release of the data might be outside of the formal notification letter that is received. With 4,000 plus requests received per year, that is difficult to do on a case-by-case basis. But I think, like I said before, obviously the county executive has set a prerogative that she wants to bring a new level of transparency and accountability to county government. I think communications plays an important role in that. And as the FOIL access officer for the County of Monroe, I think the communications department obviously wants to reinforce that message through FOIL to the extent that we can.
Thank you. And then I will just say this. Since, through the chair, you are new to the position, when this original FOIL that I had was submitted, you were not in the seat that you occupy now. I will probably resend it to you so you can look at it and see if any of the new processes that you're trying to use might end that particular length of time. Thank you. I'd like to, if I may, through the chair, go to environmental services and the buildings and projects, and ask if any within the objectives on the public safety buildings and jail, if any of those services that are in there that are talking about objectives for 2018 will involve any modernization or uplift to the female portion of the jail. Did someone ask if there were any charge bags out?
Through the chair, there's no specific gender-related upgrades currently being looked at. Can you be more specific as to what you're referring to?
Yes, thank you, through the chair. I've toured both sections, 3 sections, 4 sections of the facility, and found the female section of the facility to be in great need. And so that is my question. Is that within the objectives of 2018?
Through the chair, those areas within the jail are under consideration for specific repair and upgrades, but we're not classifying it as a gender-specific upgrade, if that answers your question.
No. Well, let me ask just a clarification. Is the portion that's currently being utilized for female incarceration within the scope of the modernization that's being covered by the objectives in the budget?
Through the chair.
Through the chair. Sorry.
Through the chair, yes, that's part of the mainframe.
Thank you. And thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to the administration, page 765 of the employee benefits, will we be deferring pension payments this year?
Madam Chair, the 2018 budget was prepared to avoid pension amortization.
Thank you. And then through the chair, when will we be making that payment?
Madam Chair, we are now making our pension bill payments on December 15th.
Thank you. And then through the chair, is it still the case where if it's paid prior to December 31st, there is a slight discount?
Yes, Madam Chair. There's it's really February 1st is the alternate due date, but if you pay December 15th, there is a discount.
Thank you. And then through you, do you have an approximate, through the chair, amount of what that savings might be? Paying December 15th?
Yes, Madam Chair. If I could be given a little ballpark leeway.
You got it.
It's like 300 or 350,000, 320,000.
Okay. Thank you. And I just, in a statement, Madam Chair, it's a really nice thing to hear this year that we're not deferring. Thank you.
Thank you.
But that's not my last question. Sorry. It might be. Through the chair to the administration, and this is a question that doesn't have to be specifically to a page. This is a question about hotel motel tax, which came up in conversation in the audit committee, and it is my question in the allocation, not the allocation, but the suggested income from hotel motel tax. Does that include the possibility of an agreement being completed in 2018 with Airbnb?
Through the chair.
Through the chair, sorry.
That's okay.
It does, Madam Chair. It does, Madam Chair.
And thank you. Through the chair, can you approximate? I'll take a ballpark again. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I think we did try to approximate it, but I'm totally drawing a blank, so I'll follow up on that in writing.
Thank you. I'd appreciate that.
Thank you.
And moving back to information services, if I might, through the chair. Since there has been concern about, this actually backs off between the Board of Elections and Information Services. Has there been an increase in funding for any increase in monitoring cyber attacks or cyber potential harm done, especially during an election season?
Through the chair, we do get notified by various agencies that have FBI connections, et cetera, of when they anticipate potential focus on Board of Election type activities. What we do with that is we whenever a recommendation is given to us, we'll apply that, but a lot of it is really just additional monitoring and using what we already have in place. It just gives us more focus to be on the lookout.
Thank you. And then through the chair, Under the Board of Elections on page 460, professional services, it's increasing by just over 400,000 or 51% for next year. Could you explain the increase?
Chair, you're going to see increases in a couple different budget line items for Board of Elections. This really is mostly attributable to the election cycle. Obviously, the president's cycle is the most expensive. Immediately, we drop into the least costly. We are now in the third year of the cycle, which always represents an increase from the prior year, and certainly going to be lower than the 2019 budget, which is another presidential cycle.
All right, thank you.
Madam Chair, I'm just going to throw in, the Board of Elections did want me to know that they do anticipate 3 major elections, perhaps a special election is a potential.
Thank you. I'm going to stop here because I have mixed up my papers, so I may have a few more questions, but I'd like to yield the mic.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Legislator Barat?
Thank you. I found what I missed.
Okay, thank you.
Going back to the hotel motel taxes, I understand how the amounts are derived. My question is, and it's a general question because it came up in public discussions about how the hotel motel taxes are allocated. My question is, through the chair of the administration, is exactly how is it determined who will receive what funds? And we know that some entities receive more funds year to year, and how is that determined as well through the chair? Is there a process?
Madam Chair, is this a general question or really a question more specific?
It is a general question in that we have, I believe, 6 or 7 entities that receive motel, hotel, funds, and
Yes,
they
Madam
receive typically the same amount over time, but some have had increases over time. And my question
Yes.
is, how is that determined? Through the
Yes,
chair?
Madam Chair. To be frank, I have advocated that additional hotel tax revenue be allocated to Monroe County Parks in support of their operations and in support of Frontier Field, Madam Chair. Those are the bulk of, I believe, what the increases have encompassed the past couple of years.
That's a fair assumption. I would totally agree. Through the chair of the administration, but my question is there a process to determine? And your response is you advocated, and that's fine. But did you advocate as part of a process, or is that just what is that? What is this application? And what are you advocating to through the chair?
Madam Chair, my advocacy is part of the budget process, and my advocacy is to my superiors and peers in county administration.
Okay. So through the chair of the administration, is it correct to say then that the distribution of hotel motel funds are really, strictly speaking, just part of the budget process that the administration performs internally through the chair?
Madam Chair, for the most part, yes. I did reach out to my peers in the city of Rochester with some general questions for them. Their allocation, of course, is made pursuant to a contract. I believe many of these allocations are made pursuant to a contract, but that was the extent of my outreach, Madam Chair.
Fair enough. Thank you very much.
Is there any other discussion? Legislator Cayley.
Thank you. Just a couple. On page, if I may, through you to the administration, on page 630, account 410205, miscellaneous income. The departmental request was for 1.4 million. Final budget number went up substantially to 13 million, and I guess I'm requesting numbers about why the difference there, unless you can.
Madam Chair, is the specific question, why is 13.6 million reduced from 15.7 and change in 2017?
No, that's not what I meant.
Then, Madam Chair, can I hear the question again?
Yes. Yep. I gotta look at the page to do it, I'm sorry.
I'm on page 630, Madam Chair.
Yes. It's not there. It's not there.
Madam Chair, was the question the difference between the request and the
Yes.
2018 proposed?
Through the chair, yes.
Well, Madam Chair, all right, that one's a little misleading. I mean, finance unallocated, that's me. So really the difference between the 1.4 million and 13.6, you got to add to the 1.4 million our $9 million budget for tax liens. We sell tax liens.
Okay.
And you can also throw in the 3.2 million casino revenue sharing.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Legislator Cayley.
You know, they're just all over the place,
They're all
Madam
over
Chair. I'm sorry. I would like to go to arts and cultural.
Yes, ma'am.
And specifically through you to the administration, there are grants given to the larger groups within the county on a yearly basis, but there's always that squeegee little thing down there that says mid-size arts for $45,000. It's like the $34,000 question for me. In 2017, through the chair, what were the recipients of that pot of money for $45,000?
Madam Chair, I bet you I could recite a lot of them off the top of my head. Is that all right?
That's surely.
Surely is.
Blackfriars, Madam Chair. Deep Arts, although I think they have a different name now. Writers and Books. Young Audiences. Yeah, Madam Chair, maybe
Stumped.
I should follow up. And everything.
That's okay.
Call a favor.
That's okay. That would, yeah, through the chair.
Perry Mason, Madam Chair, handed me a note. The Rochester Arts and Lecturers, the Rochester City Ballet. I believe I mentioned Writers and Books.
Yes.
I mentioned Blackfriars. Oh, the Landmark Society of Western New York. I've mentioned Young Audiences. A company called BOA Editions Limited. The Flower City Arts Center.
Oh.
Garth Fagan Dance.
Madam Chair, if, Mr. Franklin, I can put you out of your misery. You don't have to read through them all. The
Too late,
second,
Madam Chair.
Okay, go ahead. Thank you very much. My question through the chair is, this is a continual thing. I understand that, and I'm certainly not advocating pulling arts. Of the mid-size art supports, I know of some groups that don't even know that this opportunity exists. So if you could just tell me, or is it possible that it could be an objective for 2018 or 19 that the process with which that particular pot of money is basically announced in some way, because truly I have learned of a number of groups that have no knowledge. And it's one thing to do it to the same groups at all time, but this is a little pot that could make a difference if other people knew. So perhaps we could put that in an objective.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There were 5 new applicants that I know of between this summer and the past summer. Probably owe the legislator follow-up on another entity. Word of this funding is usually word of mouth. It is $45,000, so it's not a big chunk of change, but I heard the suggestion loud and clear, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And, yes, one last one.
One last one?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Through you to the administration, this is within Human Services. It's with regards to the more or less reorganization of the smaller funds of money, or not smaller, but the other funds of money that have been brought into financial services. And if I guess what I would like, if I may, and I will take it in writing, if I could get a breakdown of what that funding is going to be going forward for 2018, so that I can actually see the differences rather than go through all the pages and break it down.
Yes, Madam Chair, that's probably relatively easy. I think we're talking about HEAP funding.
Well, not just HEAP. They were, through the chair, when we listened to the report before, other groups were brought into under financial because it made sense, because that's how they were administrated. I believe SNAP is there.
Madam Chair, one moment, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, really, it's just the HEAP funding that was brought in. SNAP has always been part of the Financial Assistance Division.
I smell coffee. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Didn't answer my question.
Any other discussion, questions? Seeing none, I want to thank Legislator Marionetti. I apologize.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple questions. Under County Clerk's Office, specifically page 357. And through you, Madam Chair, under downtown operations for major accomplishments, the first bullet there, just general question on the change of the physical layout, just if we can just get a description of what that change was and when that took place.
Yes, Madam Chair. One moment, please.
Okay, thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, that is an objective that we did not meet this year. We had intentions, if you're familiar with the clerk's office, it's a very long counter space there. And if you go into the office many times, you'll see that people are clustered in a pretty condensed area there. So our thought was, when we created this as an objective, was to try to spread the space out a little bit more, and then maybe make some improvements to the signage with that. One of the issues that we have experienced is we've had a problem retaining staff in our office, particularly the downtown office. And as a result of that, we've had frequent turnover in staff, and we've had a number of people who have been in new positions and sort of cycled through different positions in the organizations as we're moving people up as we go forward with this. So we made a decision that basically it was in the best interest of the organization to keep the staff condensed, because it was really easier and more efficient in terms of the more experienced staff helping the less experienced staff. And again, it is our longer-term goal to sort of work on that clustering effect there. But given the nature of the turnover we've had during the course of the past year, we made the decision that it wasn't really prudent to do that at this time.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Chair, is it fair to say there's no real time frame on that at this point? if you're still looking at it, and maybe you're not. I don't know if you mentioned that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, through you, Madam Chair, it is a long-term goal of ours, but frankly, for particularly the people who work the counter, the frontline staff, the salary that we pay is a challenge, and you know, I'm hopeful that we're going to be able to identify people who decide to stay with the organization longer. But it's still a long-term goal, and if this is something that continues, then obviously we would reassess that in terms of whether or not we keep that as a goal for the future.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, still on 357, next bullet down, the vacant and abandoned property task force in partnership with Empire Justice. Can you just give a little detail about, you know, what the day-to-day operations have been, or what work's being done on a daily basis with that task force, if you can?
Sure. You know, through you, Madam Chair, the intention of the creation of the task force was there are a lot of people and a lot of organizations working on the issue of abandoned properties, but they were sort of doing it in silos, and the intention of the task force was to bring people together and enhance discussion and share ideas and sort of take advantage of the experience we have and try to make progress on this issue. You know, there have been, again, if I were to sort of give you a higher level, some of the successes that we've had through the task force. You know, one of the things through you, Madam Chair, that we've had success and I think made progress on as a result of the task force is in the county clerk's office, we now change the way when a lis pendens is filed or when a judgment of foreclosure is filed, we capture information to indicate what the municipality is, where that has happened. Before, that didn't used to be tracked. But after meeting and talking with a number of local officials, there was a decision and feedback that we received that it would be helpful if we could share that information with them, which we do email to the municipal officials on a regular basis. We send that information to them, so that's been helpful. One of the other things that we've done last year, the Department of Financial Services created a vacant property registry, and there was a whole process that they initiated with that, regulating how that registry was going to be used. The task force members sat down and made a number of recommendations that we sent to the Department of Financial Services. Some of those recommendations were included in how the registry is run. So you'll have to excuse me. I'm battling a cold here too. One of the biggest successes we've had was in October. The task force sponsored a home fair that was attended by approximately 150 people. There were a number of seminars that were offered, first-time home buyers, seminars, foreclosure prevention, homeowner counseling, and rehab services were some of the seminars that were held. As a result of the home fair, there's also going to be a website that will be created, and that will all be with private money that will bring information and resources together, how somebody can more easily research the ownership status of a house, how to donate a property, and other resources in the community that might be helpful with for people looking for information on the task force.
But you know, it's a volunteer effort. Everybody on the task force, our office does provide some limited support service to that. But in terms of county resources, there's a minimal staffing commitment involved with that.
Thank you. And through you, Madam Chair, are there specific functions that staff would do for that task force, or are you not able to give specifics on that?
Through you, Madam Chair, there actually is, the City of Rochester actually has an employee who is based in City Hall, who is a part-time employee who provides support services to the group as well. You know, we had somebody in our office who just ended up leaving our office. Who you know, she had a design expertise. She ended up helping with design a logo. You know, for some of the seminars that we've had, she may have helped with a PowerPoint demonstration. But our actual staff involvement with the day-to-day operation of the task force is somewhat limited, very limited.
Other than that limited staff, those tasks being performed, are there any other government funds used on the task force? I know you mentioned some private expenditures.
Through you, Madam Chair, the position with the City of Rochester, I think, was funded through a state grant, but no, what I've mentioned is the extent of county resources involved.
They're still on page 357 under accomplishments. I noticed some talk of some documents that were moved towards mandatory e-filing, and I just had a question. If you foresee that having an effect on staffing, how many clerks may be needed going forward if you're moving towards mandatory e-filing?
Through you, Madam Chair, no, I don't necessarily see. We don't necessarily see a change in the need for staff because I think that the workload is going to be pretty much consistent. What will happen, though, is it will come into the office in a different way. So hopefully, you know, and also there's sort of an ebb and flow of how the traffic comes into our office. You know, if you look now, we're very busy in terms of people coming into the office. A lot of that is actually related to the pistol permit recertification. So again, that's something that's going to end the end of January of this year. The first round, which will be the biggest round, will end. So I would expect there will be some fall off with that. But as we move to e-filing, I think you might see fewer people coming into the office. It might not look as busy from, you know, you look at the counter and, you know, what I talked about earlier, the congestion that's there might not be there, but I think we might have more activity in the back office in terms of people processing the filings that come in electronically.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for your answers despite your cold. I appreciate that. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Legislator Morelli.
Madam Chairman, while we have the clerk's office up here, I do have a couple questions. Through you, Madam Chairman, to the clerk's office, could you give us the status of the downtown DMV?
Yes, I could. We've included funding in our budget once again for the 2 full-time positions starting January 1st of next. I'm sorry, July 1st of next year. So I guess what I can do is I'll give a very quick recap of where things are since right about this time last year.
we have had conversation with the county administration. There was a review and a utilization of county space, and we heard back from the county county administration back at the end of the summer, saying that at some point they had other plans for the city place space that we're using right now. So that wouldn't be an option for the future, but there was alternate county space that we could use in close proximity to City Place. You know, we did a quick walkthrough with that, and again, took a look. It looked, in our opinion, like there would be substantial work involved with that in terms of physical changes to that. So we are in the process of having discussions with other possible space locations that might be an option. We've had some conversations with the City of Rochester. They have some space that may be available. One space in particular actually was used for a purpose that's very similar to what we would be using. So if that's something that worked out, I think that's something that we could do at a very low cost, and that's something we definitely would consider and look into that further. So that's basically where we are with the downtown DMV office.
Thank you. And through you, Madam Chairwoman, to the clerk's office, just in regards to pistol permit fees, earlier this year I noticed that the county clerk's office lowered the fees on pistol permit applications, but I'm going to ask a couple questions, and feel free to sort of answer them as you can. It's my understanding that fees are for fees associated with pistol permits are mandated by the state, and that the local fee kept by the clerk's office is set by the county legislature. So if I'm correct in those two items, how is it that the clerk's office lowered the fees for these applications?
Through you, Madam Chair. One point, the end of, I believe it was the end of last year, or it was the beginning of this year. I can get back to you with the exact dates of that. The New York State Department of Criminal Justice Services. I'm sorry. You know what? Let me gather my thoughts here for a second. What had happened in the past is there was a reduction in the New York State Department of Criminal Justice Services charge for a pistol permit, and there was, and this was something we found out later after the fact, that the county had actually, the previous administration had actually taken the amount that had been decreased by the Department of Criminal Justice Services and had actually transferred that amount to the local fee. So instead of the $10 fee that was authorized by this body and should have been collected, they were actually charging a fee of $11.75. And then in addition to that, there was a policy of charging for 2 sets of photographs that were taken for $7 each, which was sort of a throwback to the days of when there was an actual photo taken, and there were 2 actual photos that were issued. There were 2 charges for that. We looked at it and we decided to go with, since it was one digital image, we decided to charge, to reduce that fee correspondingly by $7 with that, and then also reduce the fee back down to $10 that we had collected. So actually there's a decrease of, I don't know what that adds up to, $8 or $9, that it's actually less for a pistol permit than it was last year.
Through the chair, to clarify, so both of those items then, the state regulation and the state mandates, the state fee and then the local fee set by the county legislature. So we're just going back to what it was that this body approved prior to a decision that was made by a previous administration. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chairwoman, to the clerk's office, there were media reports earlier this year that was a policy change regarding overpayments associated with fee for filing deeds and mortgage documents. Can you explain this change and how these changes have affected the clerk's overall revenue?
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. The county clerk's office used to have a policy of not issuing refunds for deeds and mortgages over $5. So what would happen, you know, when somebody files a deed or a mortgage, there's a formula. It's not like it's a one flat fee with that. There's a cover page, and however many sheets, there's somewhat of a calculation into what that fee should be. It's a relatively simple calculation to make, but what would frequently happen is at a closing, what would happen if the fee was less than what was required, the filing would get rejected, and rightfully so, because there wasn't the money there. So it became common practice for many people to just overestimate what the amount was going to be, so that there would be no chance of a rejection and have that filing. The clerk's office had a policy of not issuing change for more than $5 per transaction. So what was actually two things were happening. You had there was an account that was set up that was basically called the overage account, and into that account would go money that was not given in terms of a refund, and you know, that money could range from you know, some years it was $7,000. In years that it was busy, in a higher volume year, you know, it ranged as high as $23,000. So, and the other thing too that would happen, so that was sort of one piece of it, and you know, it was substantial money through you, Madam Chair. It could actually, I think over the last 6-year period, it was somewhere close to $90,000 that our office had collected through not issuing change. So and basically the other thing that happened with that was people would also, in many cases, get certified copies of documents that they didn't really need, but they would get certified copies of documents to help get that amount below that threshold, so then they could actually get the change too. So that was something that we put an end to and changed last year.
that's going to affect revenue in our office somewhat, but not enough that we should be able to absorb that, and I think we have to some degree without a negative impact to our office operation.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, I'd just like to clarify. So, in that case, the people are exactly getting what they're paying for what they're getting. This is a previous policy where they were being overcharged. So now we've just corrected that. Is that correct?
Through you, Madam Chair, yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
You're welcome. Thank you. Any other discussion? Legislator Hebert. Whoops.
Sorry, Madam Chair. Through you to the county clerk, just real quickly, how many checks would have had to be issued to refund that $90,000?
Through you, Madam Chair, let me try to answer that in another way. Right now, we actually give cash refunds up to if there's a mistake that's over $50, then our line staff needs to get a supervisor, and our supervisor will do one of two things, depending on what time of the day it is. If it's late in the day, what we'll do is we'll accept the filing with that wrong amount, but we'll also contact somebody who's brought the document over at the abstract company and try to resolve it the next morning, because if it's the end of the day, we don't want to block a filing or hold up a filing. If it's something that's earlier in the day, our staff, the supervisor, will then call somebody at the abstract company and take a credit card, and then actually will not accept the check that's wrong. But then we'll actually take a credit card and we'll accept payment that way. Does that?
Through the chair, I really was looking for how many transactions you would have needed to conduct to return. I believe you said $90,000 had built up over the years. And my follow-on question, just to get them all out, is how much does it cost you to process a small check per check?
At the counter, we actually give cash. We'll give cash back in terms of transaction. In terms of the historical numbers of this, and again, I'll give you a rough estimate. I think it's somewhere in the neighborhood of maybe about 1,000 a year that would happen with this. That's for the years. I know off the top of my head where there were maybe the $7,000 range. So that would be a rough guess. 1,000 transactions a year. So maybe somewhere 7,000 to 10,000 transactions.
And through you, Madam Chair, my second question was, how much does it cost you to process a refund? Because if I understood you correctly, these were overpayments that you determined to be overpayments after the fact, after the person had left the counter, so you can't give them a cash refund?
No, it was.
Through the chair, please.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'm too busy trying to think how I'm going to answer this. No, sorry, excuse me. Through the chair, no, the old policy that was in place for years was there was no change given. The county kept the money.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Legislator Morelli?
Through the chair, just to clarify from Legislator Hebert's question, so I think Legislator Hebert was trying to get that how much would it have cost you to return the money? To clarify, that money was just never returned. Is that correct? The money was just kept by the county, even though people had overpaid. The county just pocketed the cash.
Through you, Madam Chair, yes.
Thank you.
Any other discussion pertaining to the budget? Seeing none, I would like to thank Mr. Franklin, all the department heads, your staff, for again, another very detailed question and answer on the 2018 budget. The next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. You have the minutes of the October 23rd meeting before you. They will stand approved unless the clerk is notified of any changes by the end of the day. The next item on the agenda is new business. Legislator.
Madam Chair, thank you.
Legislator Hibbert?
I would like to move that we pass the following referrals with a single vote, inclusive, and I'll leave off the 170s in front of them, 294 through 308, 311 through 314, 317 through 324, and 326 through 329.
Do a second. Thank you. Seconded by Legislator Morelli. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Okay, so next item, please. Let's everybody get on the same page. Madam Clerk.
Referral 17-0309.
Moved by Legislator Hebert and seconded by Legislator Carbone. Is there any discussion on this? Legislator Barath.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a question regarding the equipment, the malfunctioning equipment that's being replaced. It was noted in the referral that it's number 309.
Yes.
309. It was noted that the equipment has been getting additional wear and tear due to the amounts and types of evidentiary samples being submitted. And my question is, given that the life cycle of these things are 10 to 15 years, and that these instruments are more than 12 years old, when we put the CIP together, are we assuming the maximum average lifespan for these for the CIP of the equipment?
Clark from the Crime Lab. Through the chair, we do our best to estimate the life of these instruments, again, from 12 to 15 years. What we didn't anticipate was the increased usage due to some of the types of evidence that were submitted to the laboratory.
So, through the chair of the administration, since we didn't anticipate the types in use, do we anticipate now that the increased type in use will continue into the future? Through the chair?
Through the chair, yes, that is a possibility.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 17-0310.
Moved by Legislator Carbone and seconded by Legislator Delahanty. Any discussion on this? Legislator Barath.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through the chair of the administration, the referral notes that this creation of a new capital fund is, quote, necessary for proper strategic, operational, and sound financial planning purposes. If that's the case, why was this not done in prior years? Through the chair.
Madam Chair, this had been done in prior years just through the operating budget, and the suggestion going forward is to have an operating transfer to a capital fund.
But we haven't, through the chair, we have not actually gone to a capital fund prior to this year, correct, through the chair?
Actually, no, Madam Chair. This was a relatively new idea. The first application was creating a capital fund for replacement of sheriff's vehicles. That was the first capital fund I can recall for a specific purpose like this.
So, through the chair of the administration, it would not be unusual to expect more of these in the future?
Madam Chair, in discussions with staff and public safety, they would like to start their own budgeting process to account for a $40,000 transfer going forward.
For this particular referral, correct, through the chair?
Madam Chair, specifically for the replacement of public safety vehicles.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 17-0315.
Moved by legislator Delahanty and seconded by legislator Rocco. Is there any discussion on this? Legislator Baroff.
Thank you. Through the chair of the administration, this referral talks about using sampling results from previous seasons to refine the operational model similar to the one employed at Ontario Beach. Could you please describe what's employed at Ontario Beach through the chair?
Wade Silkworth from Environmental Health. Through the chair, can you repeat the last part of the question?
Sure. Basically, we're using a similar process that's one that's employed on Ontario Beach. My question is, what is the nature of the process that's employed on Ontario Beach? Through the chair.
Through the chair, the nature of the process involves taking the samples and analyzing the data and using that data to refine our model. And this is a model that takes environmental considerations, environmental factors such as rainfall, river flow, things of that nature, and uses that to predict whether the bacteria counts will be high at the beach and predict whether the beach should be open that day.
Thank you. So through the chair of the administration, we don't currently do that in regards to the beach at Durand Eastman Park, correct?
Through the chair, we do currently do that at Durand Beach as well.
So through the chair of the administration, what's changed?
Nothing has changed. This is a intermunicipal agreement which we've had with the city of Rochester, I believe since 2009, to conduct this sampling and refine this model as we go.
Oh, so it's not new then, through the chair?
Through the chair, no.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 17-0325.
Moved by legislator Rocco and seconded by legislator Ansello. Is there any discussion on this? Legislator Baroff.
Thank you. It's all my fault, I know.
No, that's fine.
Through the chair of the administration, on this referral, it talks about how no additional net county funds are required. It says the funding for these agreements is 100% reimbursable from the Office of Children and Family Services. Is that a New York State office, through the chair? Through the chair, that is correct. Thank you very much.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 17-0330.
Moved by legislator Ansello and seconded by legislator Marionetti. Is there any discussion on this? Legislator Baroff.
Yes, I have a feeling we might need to go to executive session about this because as it's payout to the settlement, I would like to know what is the nature of the settlement through the chair.
Yes. So I'd like a motion that we'll move it to executive, moved by legislator Hebert, seconded by legislator Morelli. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? We're going to go to executive session, so I believe we'd like 5 minutes here to clear the room. Only legislators that are on the Ways and Means Committee, or I guess, I'm sorry, the Any other discussion on this referral? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 17-0331.
Moved by legislator Marianetti and seconded by legislator Hebert. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 17-0332.
Moved by legislator Hebert and seconded by legislator Carbone. Is there any discussion on this? Legislator Barath.
Thank you. Through the chair of the administration, it notes that the most qualified candidate was capital markets advisor. How many other respondents were there through the chair?
Madam Chair, to the best of my recollection, because I unfortunately forgot all my real referrals. Response, Madam Chair. There were 5 respondents in total.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 17-0333.
Moved by legislator Carbone and seconded by legislator Rocco. Is there any discussion on this? Legislator Barath.
Through the chair of the administration, could you please describe the nature of this parcel being sold?
Through the chair, it's actually 2 parcels from a 3-lot subdivision.
So through the chair, 2 parcels make up 3 lots.
Well, the original subdivision had 3 lots in it, and so these 2 were part of that original subdivision of 3 lots.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 17-0334.
Moved by legislator Delahanty and seconded by legislator Rocco. Is there any discussion on this? Legislator Barath.
Thank you. Through the chair of the administration, the same question. What's the nature of this property?
Through the chair, it's a subdivision lot in an established subdivision where the house had fallen into disrepair and it had been demolished, so it's a vacant lot.
Thank you very much.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 17-0335.
Moved by legislator Rocco and seconded by legislator Ansello. Legislator Barath.
Thank you. Through the chair, the same question.
Same question.
Through the chair, this is what I like to call a small subdivision error. It's an undersized, underutilized lot that the adjoining owner bought.
Thank you. Through the chair, are you so the owner owns property next to the lot, but the owner lives in Rochester, New York, correct? Through the chair?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 17-0336.
Moved by legislator Ansello and seconded by legislator Marianetti. Is there any discussion on this? Legislator Barath.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Same question. What is the nature of this property? Through the chair.
Through the chair, again, this is from the original subdivision. It's a sliver of land that was supposed to be, with the approval of the subdivision, it was supposed to be turned over to the adjoining owner, which never happened. M&T foreclosed on the adjoining house, and through their survey work, determined that a portion of the improvements on that developed lot were encroaching on this lot. So in order to clear up that problem, they asked to acquire that.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Legislator Cayley?
Are you saying that there are 2 adjacent lots? One was foreclosed on. The bank foreclosed and then bought the other lot as well?
Through the chair, yes, the bank foreclosed on a lot that is improved with a house that is adjoining this sliver of land, because that's really what it is. It can't be used for anything else. In the process of getting ready to sell the house that they foreclosed on, it was determined that some of the improvements from the house lot were encroaching on the lot that the county owned.
All right, thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 17-0337.
Moved by legislator Marinetti and seconded by legislator Hebert. Legislator Baroth.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The same question through the chair, the nature of this property.
Through the chair, this parcel is a landlocked piece behind the purchaser, so they asked to purchase this to, be able to clean it up and, kind of beautify the neighborhood.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 17-0338.
Moved by legislator Hebert and seconded by legislator Carbone. Is there any discussion on this? Legislator Baroth.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through the chair, to the administration, same question, the nature of this property, please.
These are part of a subdivision again. The original developer failed to pay the taxes. They're actually retention ponds, and there's a new developer to finish the development, and the town was requiring that they control these retention ponds so that they could be properly turned over to the town upon completion of the subdivision.
Thank you very much.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 17-0339.
Moved by legislator Carbone and seconded by legislator Delahanty. Any discussion on this? Legislator Baroth.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through the chair of the administration, am I correct to assume that Niagara Mohawk Power Corporation doesn't owe the county any taxes? Through the chair.
Through the chair, that's correct.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 17-0340.
Moved by legislator Delahanty and seconded by legislator Rocco. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 17-0341.
Moved by legislator Rocco and seconded by legislator Ansello. Any discussion? Legislator Baroth.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through the chair of the administration, what benefits do we anticipate from participating in the regional dredging management plan?
Tom Goodwin from Planning and Development. Through the chair, this is a regional effort, and it's the first step in implementation of a plan that was first developed in about 2000 and updated in 2014 to look at keeping the navigation channels open along Lake Ontario.
Thank you. And through the chair of the administration, I noticed that one of the commitments of the county will be to provide in-kind services through the designation of a member of the council. Is that the only in-kind service that we'll be providing at this point in time through the chair?
Through the chair, we expect that staff time from my department will be used primarily with pulling in staff from the county executive's office as needed.
Thank you. And through the chair of the administration, currently the initial amount of $5,000 to support these efforts, is that the initial amount, or will it be likely to be, I mean, it is the initial amount, or is it likely that we will have to put more funds forth at some future date for this, through the chair?
Through the chair, we don't anticipate that at this time, but we won't know until we get into the process.
Fair enough. And the last question I have is, I know it was addressed earlier in a different committee regarding the contingency that no local development corporation be formed in connection with this project, and that if one is formed, we will address that as that time comes up. Is there any concern on the part of the county that this might actually be something we need to be concerned about? I would imagine not, but perhaps I'm wrong. Through the chair.
Through you, Madam Chair, the reason why that was stipulated in that way is because, as Mr. Goodwin said, that there had been previous discussions about coming together and addressing the need, and in those previous discussions, a consultant had been hired and had in fact made a recommendation that the best solution going forward would be to create a local development corporation. We put the stipulation into this agreement to make sure that our partners going forward were of a clear understanding that if that suggestion were to come up again, that Monroe would not be a participant. and just to make the item crystal clear to them, so no one was complaining after the fact, maybe.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 17-0344.
Moved by legislator Ansello and seconded by legislator Marinetti. Any discussion on that? This, please. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 17-0346.
Moved by legislator Marinetti and seconded by legislator Hebert. Is there any discussion on this? Legislator Morelli.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Through you to the administration, why is this a matter of urgency when the dissolution of the LDC has been known for several months?
Madam Chair, this is being brought to you as an MOU so that we could wrap up the legislative process before December 31st. It may have been in process for several months, but our attorneys at Barclay Damon recently filed the actual or completed the actual paperwork for dissolution.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 17-0347.
Moved by legislator Hebert, seconded by legislator Carbone. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 17-0348.
Moved by legislator Carbone and seconded by legislator Delahanty. Legislator Morelli.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Through you to the administration, what is the current debt, interest, and what will the new one be? Lower rates. What will the new lower rates be on this debt?
Thank you. Thank you, Tim. Thank you,
Through you, Madam Chairwoman, Steve Savage with Monroe County Water Authority. As far as the new rates in that, I don't have those before me, but I can get that information. If you would like, I can give a little explanation as to what's being realized by the issuance of these refundings.
Through you, Madam Chairwoman, that would be great.
Through you, Madam Chairwoman, currently before the House and the Senate, there are bills that are being called that repeal the advanced funding of bonds. This means that beginning in 2018, borrowers can no longer use a new bond deal to refinance an existing bond deal, and prior to the date when the existing bonds can be prepaid. Currently, there's Series 2010 bonds that are out there that cannot be prepaid until the year 2020, but they do qualify for advanced refunding if the deal is completed before the end of the year. We propose to issue Series 2017 bonds, put the bond proceeds into escrow, which will be used to pay off the 2010 bonds at the 2010 prepayment date.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Legislator Felder?
Just quickly, so through the chair, you're saying that you want to get it done before this new tax bill passes?
That's correct,
okay.
Through the chair. This opportunity won't exist after the 31st if that bill's passed.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 17-0349.
Moved by legislator Carbone, seconded by legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion on this? Legislator Barath.
Through the chair of the administration, the RFP had 3 proposals submitted, including MAPCO. Who are the other 2 companies that submitted a proposal for this contract?
Through the chair, I don't have the name of the other 2. They were out-of-state groups. Hold on, I misspoke. I do have the, through the chair. Yep. Again, they're Lazy Fly, I believe, and SP Plus, was that, were the names, and they were out of state, and I didn't sit in on this, so I can't tell you more than that.
Lazy Fly.
I believe that's what it says here, L-A-Z Fly.
Okay.
These are the cheat sheets, through the chair.
Thank you. Through the chair of the administration, well, I'm glad MAPCO got it then.
Yes, through the chair.
Does under this contract, does MAPCO assume any liability for anything like that from people utilizing the parking facilities?
MAPCO does, through the chair, MAPCO does supply insurance and assumes responsibility for the damage its drivers do under the valet now, and for other customer-type damage.
Thank you. And finally, it's noted that we anticipate the Monroe County Airport Authority to approve the contract in November 29. Did that occur through the chair?
Through the chair, yes, it did.
Thank you very much.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 17-0350.
Moved by legislator Rocco and seconded by legislator Ansello. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 17-0351.
Moved by legislator Ansello and seconded by legislator Marionetti. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 17-0352.
Moved by legislator Marionetti and seconded by legislator Hebert. Is there any discussion on this? Legislator Morelli.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Through you to the administration. As this is the 15th year we've contracted with GRE, why wasn't this referral submitted in November instead of last minute?
So, Madam Chair, the person who usually do this referral retired, and the person who should have picked it up didn't.
Fair enough.
Okay, good
Thank
enough
you.
reason. Through you, Madam Chairwoman, what are the types of promotions we can expect from GRE? Essentially, what do we get for our the 50,000?
Through you, Madam Chair, our contribution to GRE provides us an opportunity as a sort of a higher tier member to sit on, have a seat at their board and have a governance role in addition to support their activities in attracting new businesses in Monroe County. As you're probably aware, they were instrumental in helping put together the proposal for our joint proposal with Buffalo for the Amazon H2 RFP response. And those are the types of activities that they're normally engaged in, and this is providing our support to that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please. Last.
Referral 17-0353.
Moved by legislator Hebert and seconded by legislator Carbone. Is there any discussion on this? Legislator Felder.
Through the chair, has their contract been settled yet?
Pardon?
Has their contract been settled yet?
Through the chair.
Through the chair.
Okay, thank you. Just a moment.
Through the chair, Holly Moynihan from the Sheriff's Office. It appears there was a previous contract, and this request is to extend the contract for an additional year.
To the chair, what is the status of the negotiations?
through the chair?
Through the chair.
Thank you.
Through the chair, there's not a negotiation. The state has forwarded us a contract just recently, providing for payment of the Unified Court System staff from the Monroe County Sheriff's Office to provide court security for 1 year.
Through the chair, there's not a union that negotiates on behalf of them?
Through you, Madam Chair, I think if I could help clarify here, Legislator Felder's asking about the union negotiations, and this is a contract with the state to get paid for having the security in the courthouse, or to pass. So this is our contract with the state of New York for us to receive funds for providing this service within the courthouse. This is exclusive and not connected to the union negotiations or anything of the sort.
Thank you, Mr. Repere.
I'm asking through the chair, I'm confused through the chair. If the state is forwarding the money, why is the contract with the union not settled if the money is being paid for by the state?
Through you, Madam Chair, those are two issues that are exclusive of each other. This is simply a revenue contract they have the funds in order to provide the service.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. We're short of, I think last year was 10 o'clock, 4 hours, so we're doing pretty good, 9:15. Any other matters come before us, this committee? Hopefully nothing. Thank you. The December 7th meeting of the Ways and Means will stand adjourned until, you're going to be all back here in 2 weeks, December 19th at 6 p.m. Thank you, and have a nice evening.